evening and welcome to DCUTV's SU election coverage. My name is Jordan Kavanagh. We have 6 races to get through tonight. They are engagement and development, education and placement, welfare, Ifiguk na Gaeilge, academic affairs, and finally president. These debates are one of the last tests for all the candidates after a long week of campaigning, and with 2 days left of voting, this is one of the final ways to make up your mind on who to vote for. To start things off, we have the candidates for education and placement, with Owen Luke O'Kellig moderating the debates. Last week, Owen Luke interviewed both candidates to see who they are and what they're all about.
I found myself helping students on placement, with assignments, with exams, anything. Vote for me and I'll be there for you next year.
One of the big ones, my main one, is feedback on assignments. All students need to be given feedback to know exactly how they go about improving their next work, what they did right, what they did wrong, and without getting feedback you don't know. And as well then, referencing and essay writing skills workshops need to be promoted more. Some are run but they're not pushed enough, and then people spend ridiculous amount of time worrying if they're structuring essays properly, if they're referencing properly, and they should be focusing on the content. So if you're taught how to reference properly in first year, then you'll know for the rest.
During a 10-week plan.
Okay, welcome back to the DCUtv live SU election debates. We're joined now by Stephen Rickson and Manus McLaughlin, who are running for the new role of Vice President for Education and Placement. Guys, thanks for coming in. Come here, this is a new role this year. What are the key issues for you now looking at this new role? How are you going to make it your own? How do you see the role? Stephen, we'll start with you.
Well, I think it's a very important role because up to 70% of students in DCU are on placement, so it's obviously a big part of any college course, and especially because everybody hopes to go into a professional environment afterwards. The placement is a key issue. So I think some of the big issues are just supporting students on placement, because at the end of the day we are only students. Some people in the workplace might look down on you, and it's important to have as much support in place so that you are confident going on placement.
And how do you think you can address the issues regarding what issues are facing placement in DCU?
Well, financial is a big one, because especially if you're placed far away from DCU and you have a lot of travel to do, that's travel expenses. If you have a lot of printing to do, especially any education courses have a hell of a lot of resources to print. So these are the big things to get financial support in place. But as well as that, there are issues obviously regarding how to get your placement, because if you get a placement you don't want, it's not very nice to do 6 months in a job you don't really want to do, and you have to do it just because of that. So I suppose a review of the whole allocation process, because even with teaching courses, students are often placed very far away from where they're actually living, and there needs to be more consideration and looked into the allocation of it.
On that point, you mentioned at Hustings last week that you might be able to look into a system where students, if if 2 people got placements that they weren't happy with, they might be able to swap them with each other if they were both up for that. How, do you think employers would go for that? I know for some of the courses anyway, interviews are a big thing. Candidates have to come in, they have to be chosen by a specific company. Do you see employers actually agreeing with this, where students can just swap amongst themselves?
Well, it's not that they can just swap amongst themselves. Obviously there's more into it than that, but I don't mean that the 2 would just swap directly. I mean, if this person had a separate interview that they wanted to go for and they got that one, that they could then give their one position to somebody else who was also interviewed for it. So it's not a case where 2 people are just swapping over like that. It's not, but it's where you go for something different and then somebody else takes your position, so it is filled, so the company's not worrying like, oh, now we have no one for the position.
Okay, I get you. Manus, what do you think the key issues facing this position will be now next year?
I suppose with the coming together of the colleges, that's going to be a main issue, and as Stephen said there, 70% of students do go on placement. But I would like to make it clear to all that my role is education and placement, so I'm not going to be just there for the students who are on placement. I'm going to be there for those all across all courses, because college courses and college life in general is stressful. Look, I suppose there's been a lot of intra-related issues around DCU, and a lot of questions being posed and asked to myself and Stephen as to what we would do with regard to them. And I've repeated that if elected next week, it's very important that I try my absolute best then, along with everyone who's asked me for help and what I will do. I'm going to ask them to come with me next week and start implementing the changes, then why not? Because
What changes though? Like specifically, what changes are you looking to implement? Because I know like education is it's a broad banner. What actually falls under that you're going to be addressing next year?
You see, I suppose finding out what the students want is the most important thing. First of all, there's no point in me putting my hand up and saying, look, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. As I've mentioned, the questions that I've heard and the questions that I've been asked and from people I've been talking to, the main issues there are the ones I'm going to be putting a driving force behind. And I suppose instead of just me being up there fighting alone, I'd love to take everyone else with me who has them issues, and we'll all go together.
Okay, and obviously finance has been mentioned. That's an issue facing people on placement. Where do you propose to get this money to support them? Have either of you approached the intra office yet, asking them if the changes you're proposing are possible, if the reform is feasible? Have either of you approached the intra office yet?
Well, in terms of the intra office, I have spoken briefly with Vanessa, and that was where the swap system kind of was mentioned. Not so much finance with the intra, because I was more focusing financially, I suppose if you are on an unpaid intra, but additional printing credits isn't something that's going to cost the college very much money, because as it is, it's to use the printing facilities within the college. And then travel expenses, there's a budget in the SU at the start of the year, and that would be something I'd really push for it to go towards, because obviously now that the two SUs are coming together, all the budget that was in the PATS SU as well is going to come together, and it's all going to be one. So that I definitely think there's a section there for travel expenses in that budget.
Okay, and I suppose would either of you be lobbying for, as you mentioned, some placements are unpaid. There's a lot of those are in the School of Humanities here. A lot of intras go unpaid, whereas in the likes of the engineering faculty and stuff like that, I was talking to somebody last week that said that it's very rare that somebody would get an unpaid intra, that usually the pay is quite good. Would you lobby for the rights of media students, of students in the School of Humanities who, like, arguably they're going through the same length of college, they're learning technical skills that they specifically have, that they should probably be getting paid for? Would you be lobbying to these companies to make these companies pay their intra students?
Well, I suppose it is important, obviously, that they get paid on intra, but at the end of the day, if you want to go for a company that's going to be beneficial to your career and it is an unpaid intra, that's kind of, if the company doesn't want to pay you, that's something that you're going to have to kind of, I suppose, put up with. Now, obviously, it would be great if everyone could be paid, if they could at least get some sort of financial assistance, but we can't get every company around Ireland or around Dublin to provide finance as well. I know I was talking to some science students, and in third year when they go on intra, it's very much dependent on their grade where intras they can actually apply for. So I think that could be looked into, because then I do think if they're kind of not getting an intra that's paid just because of their grades, that is unfair. That's different.
Okay, Manus, what are your thoughts on the subject?
I suppose, first of all, as almost working professionals, as you said, in their final year, I don't understand why people aren't being paid. I myself, as a teacher, none of us are paid in placement, so I can 100% relate to those who aren't being paid in placement. My bank account decreased the entire first semester, and I'm struggling since. I broke my wrist in the summer, so I had no work. So I can personally relate to that, I suppose. What can I do with regard to it? I suppose I'm not just going to focus on those who are on intra placement not being paid. I would really like to focus and gather everyone. As I said, with regard to change, you need a driving force behind it, and to get one, you need everyone rather than just me. So I will be calling upon everyone who isn't paid, and if they're looking for me to make a change, I need their help.
And how would you go about that change?
By finding out the students who are willing to come behind me in the lobby for the fight.
And would you approach the intra office? And the intra office,
Yeah,
as everyone knows, like there is a lot of demand. There is a lot of work going on there, and that contributes to, I know, it leaves the intra office wanting a bit more. People aren't too happy with the intra office in a lot of courses. Would you get onto them and get them to campaign to
Well, look, they're
companies?
understaffed. We know that for a fact. Everyone's been telling me that, Manus, if you are going dealing with the issues, can you please just deal with them carefully, tread carefully. I've spoken to Abir Abbas, and her advice to me was, Manus, to go in, if elected, and just chat to them. Just be nice and say, look, I've been chatting to a good few students, this is what they've said to me, is there anything that can be done? Because I suppose going in there all guns blazing is not going to get any of us anyway.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose something else is that obviously the amalgamation is a big issue this election. You're both St. Pat's students. How do you feel about working? I know obviously placement is a huge part of the education training in St. Pat's. How do you feel about Like if you come up to, obviously if the two universities come together, will you be looking at PAT students more favourably, or will you be looking at everyone, or what? Like, what do you think about the amalgamation?
Coming up to DCU and saying you're a PATS person over the last 2 weeks, it's no easy task. Breaking down the stigma is something that I would love. With the coming together of the new Students' Union is going to happen. It's going to be the most refreshing year PATS Matter Day Church of Ireland DCU have ever seen, in my opinion. That's basically all I have to say on that. That it's going to be a refreshing year, and that we're all going to have and make sure that we all get along very well and build a community that we've all talked so much about.
Yeah, I definitely have no favourability. That's how you pronounce it. I've probably been in DCU longer than people in DCU, because obviously I'm in my 4th year now, and I've been involved in societies here. I've been on committees in DCU, so I'd absolutely love to work across both campuses, because it is placement in all faculties. Every faculty has placement.
And would I be right in saying that the placement you go on in PATS, it's not got nothing to do with the inter-system itself?
No, it has nothing to do with the inter-system.
So you've never personally had experience with the inter-system, with the ideas of going to these interviews and having to take the first one, or you've never had to deal with the inter-office itself, no?
No, I haven't, but that's why when I was making my manifesto and found out that intra was a part of it, I went and talked to as many students that I knew had intra to find out what the big issues were to tackle, because
and what were the biggest issues that they came up with?
Interportal was a big one, and obviously I feel very strongly about that. If you're doing Irish in journalism, Irish in business, Irish in anything, and you want to apply for an Irish intra, you should be able to upload your CV Oscarilga. As well as that, people having to spend a ridiculous amount of hours just clicking in to see what date. The thing is, that should just be presented a bit better if they had the dates on the front page, stuff like that. Just not being able to add personality to your thing. I understand that obviously the inter-department have to go through each thing with a fine comb, and it is easier if it's laid out like that for them, but I still think you should be able to give some personality, because often I've heard people say that they went to their job and they kind of said, oh well, your CV wasn't laid out properly, but they had to lay it out like that because of the interportal.
Okay, and Manus, have you any experience yourself with the interportal or anything?
Can you just repeat the very first question you had again?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, like obviously you haven't gone through the interportal itself, what experience do you have of dealing with the inter-system, which causes so many problems for
look, I haven't had any experience, as Stephen has said there, with going to inter people and talking to them. When I first approached this election, I immediately made sure that I didn't put on my manifesto loads of ideas that I had about intra. Why? Because as a student union person, I've had 2 different roles. You need to learn and grow and develop in your role. People can't expect immediately that just because we said we're going to try and change things, that we immediately are going to definitely do it. Like, you know, it's very important that people understand that we can only do our best, and the best is all I'm going to do next year. And if elected next week is when I plan to implement such changes and bring people behind me. And look, as I said, implement is only a word. I plan to just drive behind it, because I haven't seen too many other people campaigning over the past 2 years to push for intra changes.
Okay, fair enough. Like this time next year, if there's one thing you want to say you've done as education and placements officer, what would it be? Manus, I'll come to you first on that one.
First of all, it's just to be there, a support for all the students who are on placement, and of course all the students across all campuses. My door will always, metaphorically speaking, be open, because representing the students is absolutely no easy task. And look, I want to make sure that students on placement are provided with placement and well-being packs, because I feel the two are very much interconnected. And look, I'm proactive, hard-working, experienced. My name is Manus McLaughlin, vote Manus for Ed.
Okay, and Stephen?
I suppose the biggest thing, if I could just have, by the end of next year, that students who are on placement have had a better experience because of the work I've done and what I've pushed for, that'll be it. Just to support students on placement. There are a lot of issues with many different courses, lots of different placement issues, but I do think that in my manifesto, a lot of things I have said are very realistic. They can be achieved if we just actually work on them, work with the department staff, and support students more in placement, so that it is an easier process, because at the end of the day, that is kind of the practical element of your course, and you should be able to enjoy it as much as you can, because it is what you're going to do once you finish college.
Okay, so from your manifesto there, what would be the one thing, like if you just had to pick one specific key aspect of your manifesto, what would it be?
Well, in terms of education, the key thing is to start getting feedback on assignments, because at the end of the day, if that's something, because from an education point, in order to improve, you have to be told what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Otherwise, it's just a guessing game, because you could get a first one semester and the next semester you don't know how you got that first. You need to know, and that's feedback.
Okay, so from the lecturers themselves, you want
yeah, because as they're grading them, literally all they'd have to do is write down 3 concise points. That's enough.
Okay, and would that, like, there obviously each lecturer, some lecturers have over 100 students, like, that would increase the workload on them.
It's not really increasing the workload though. It's just a few simple points, because as I said, like, I'm in 4th year now, and until I started doing my research project thesis, that was the first time I found out whether I was referencing properly or not. I mean, the lecturer could just literally write down, you're referencing properly, because you go through 4 years of college still unsure, because nobody's actually ever told you whether you're doing it right or not.
Okay, that's right. And Manus, if there was one concrete thing from your manifesto that you wanted?
I suppose there's one concrete thing I want to bring next year. It's academic events across the whole board to give students the edge when they go for a job in the future over the other students. We're talking themed weeks such as Professional Development Week, Jump to J1 Week, Careers Abroad Week, Careers at Home Week, and much, much more.
Okay, so yeah, that's perfect. Well, thanks very much, guys, for joining us. It's obviously been a very long week for you so far, and it's not over till Wednesday. If people do want to get in touch with us, they can do so with the hashtag SU Debates. And yeah, you can vote online at the minute at www.suelections.dcu.com or .ie. Yeah, so thanks a million for joining us. We're going to come up next with the engagement and development debate.
Well, I'm a very passionate people person, and I've always been involved in student union and society life and college life, and I was always wondering like if I would ever get involved in the students union, and I was looking at the positions, and then this year there's a brand new position, engagement and development. I read up all about it, and I saw how much it would actually suit me, and I saw that I could bring something along to it as well, that it's so new and that I could define it in my own way, and I'm really excited to bring something new to the students union.
Okay. So like looking there, yeah. I decided to run for engagement and development because my friends always said I was the perfect candidate. I feel that I have the right attributes. I'm approachable, I'm big on engagement, and I study human development in St. Pat's, so I feel that my course even comes into it. I really want to make everyone's college life the best times of their life.
So from the moment I was started in first year, Clubs and Socks Fair, I've always been involved in extracurricular activities. I've always been involved in clubs and societies. I joined 14 or so societies, and then I think the first of them was DCU Drama. And I've always loved taking part in clubs and societies and the class rep council as well. It's probably one of the more neglected parts of the engagement and development office. But I was a class rep in my first year, and I just loved being so involved.
My reason for running for the position of Vice President of Engagement and Development is because I feel that this is a very important position. It's the first year it's going to be introduced, and I really want to implement great ideas and thoughts that I have for both colleges. I want to incorporate my ideas with the amalgamation that's happening between DCU and PATS. I feel that I have many great ideas that I can bring to the table.
How are things?
I decided to run for engagement and development because at this point in my life I feel like it's just the right time for me to go for it. After 4 years in college I've learned so much, and I feel like I have an awful lot to offer. I'd hate to leave without leaving my mark. And I feel like next year is the perfect opportunity to do that.
Before we began, I asked each candidate to define the role of VP for Development and Welfare in one sentence, which they will now read, starting with Keith.
The role of the Engagement and Development Officer is to be responsible for the development and the training of the membership. They must work with staff to promote extracurricular activities, liaise with class and faculty representatives, and sit on relevant university committees and bodies.
Next up, Nisha.
The Engagement and Development Officer is a facilitator for everything extracurricular in the college. Class rep council, clubs and societies, volunteering, referendums, etc.
Steve.
It is, I think it's very much in the name. It is an engager, it's a developer, and I think it's also an involver.
Jack.
The key responsibility for engagement and development is the engagement and promotion of class representative councils, while also being available to engage with the student body at all times and promoting extracurricular activities.
And finally, Emer.
The definition of Vice President for Engagement and Development, in my opinion, is to ensure that all students, no matter what cultural, financial or academic background the students have, are equally represented and have equal opportunities and facilities made available to them to develop themselves in all aspects of their being.
This brand new role has been defined very differently by the candidates throughout the hustings, online and on both DCUFM and DCUtv. A lot of people are confused and have been asking for a clear definition of this role, which I will now read. The VP shall be responsible for development and training of the membership. They'll be responsible for overseeing faculty reps, class reps, and shall facilitate meeting class rep council. The VP will sit on university committees and bodies. They will develop student engagement of all members by working with university staff to promote all extracurricular opportunities. So I have two questions aimed at all candidates, and then I have one each individually. So the first question is about how they plan to include and engage with student commuters. How do you plan to involve them when a good bit of what happens on campus goes on until late and on until after the last bus? We're going to start with Nisha on this one.
Oh, thanks. It is obviously a very good question. It's something I've wondered about. I haven't actually thought about or prepared a response for this, but the first thing I can think of is perhaps creating some sort of networking system so students are able to link in with people who might be able to offer accommodation. I know Sean Cassidy, who's running for president, is looking for a better guest policy for campus residents. So yeah, bringing in something like that would probably be the most effective thing I can think of. Offhand anyway.
Up next, Steve.
I think a lot of it is about, well, so far a lot of the engagement development things have been happening during the day, so it's about whether you have a break in your classes, not so much if waiting around for later on. It's about during the day, because a lot of the development courses are on during the day. I think a lot of it is about bringing it to the students as well, so I want to implement a lot more use of media content for people to upload pieces, for people to train themselves, and then I want to also have a nap room for commuters. So commuters, you may have a nap room, you may sleep as much as you like, you may sleep in this room, it'll be a meditation room, it'll be a lovely room. So yeah.
Okay, Jack.
Yeah, if elected, I want to create daytime activities which are commuter friendly. The aim is in participation. This is something that I am extremely passionate about, as if elected in this role, I want to make sure to reach out and involve each student from whatever faculty you may be in.
Emer?
Yeah, again, daytime activities is a big thing. I know myself, I travel up and it takes a lot to stay late at night. Another thing also is that you're not just addressing the commuters, you need to be addressing the mature students and the international students that don't have times, and the people with heavy workloads. So you need to have, I know there's a daytime activity officer in St. Pat's, so I'd like to have something like that set up. The VP for Engagement and Development would have to work with daytime activities, as well as that. I know a lot of the workshops and CV clinics and things like that would be on during the day, so it's just about time management. I've been pushing big time that if you're passionate about something, you'll go and you'll do it. So
okay, and finally, Keith.
Yeah, I think this came up, I think it was last year when there was an election in Pats, that the 60% of St. Patrick's students are commuters. I was actually very surprised by that. I thought it would be less, so I presume the figure is probably quite similar in DCU. So there's a definite gap in the market there, not for like daytime events that run while their classes might be on, or nighttime social events. I think there's a gap there for events that could take place at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening when they wouldn't have class, but they wouldn't be rushing home either. So something simple would be like an outdoor barbecue or an outdoor cinema, or even a bus going to Jump Zone or something like that at that time of the evening, rather than having to get them to miss all their classes during the day, or having to get them to go out and probably miss classes the following morning.
Okay, my second question for all of you is about CRC. On the topic of low attendance at CRC and how you would incentivise class reps to attend, some of you have mentioned introducing more training weekends, more nights out, coffee mornings, rewards. I was wondering if any of you know what the budget is for this part of the job, and how you plan to incentivise class reps without using any of this budget, starting with Steve.
As regards what the budget is, no, I have no idea. I've asked some of the other positions about how their funding is used. They told me that they get a budget, they get a large budget for the year, and they get to spend that however they want. So a lot of our money will be going towards the class reps if we want to do that. As you read out the proper definition, class reps is such a big part of it. And then how we'd incentivise them otherwise, I think it's just about, without using a budget, it's about the whole social aspect of it. Them to enjoy their time, we will be getting people in to train them and everything, but that will be going into the budget. I think it's about using the budget wisely.
Okay, next up is Jack.
Yeah, this is something that I've actually talked to James Donoghue about quite a bit. The engagement and promotion of the class representative councils is something I'm extremely passionate about. I know something simple as from the outset, giving each elected member hoodies so that it is clearly seen throughout both campuses that they have a say in what the student agenda is, and they're encouraged to engage with students. He has organised training trips this year, and I want to enhance that next year. What I promise to do is 2 training trips. As regards to budgets, no, actually I don't know, but 1 for each semester, so that the students who have the privacy of getting these roles know exactly what they are going to do, and any issues that may occur, they are able to deal with them.
Okay, Emer, I just want to emphasise again, it's without using any of the budget, so...
For myself, I did actually mention through hustings that I am aware that by the Constitution you can miss up to 4 class rep councils without any formal apology. So I would, firstly, I would run a referendum to bring that down to 2 at most. You shouldn't be missing class rep council. That would take no budget to run that referendum. It's literally just needs to have the motion put forward and have that changed. With a budget, then also there would be USI training, stuff like that. That doesn't cost that much, as well as even just getting in public speakers such as people who are involved in politics, or even Mickey Joe Hart is always around DCU, people like that can engage with the class reps and help them develop their own skills to relay information back to the students.
Okay, Keith, I just want to say again, guys, it's without using the budget, and it's incentivising the class reps. So Keith?
I'm not actually sure what the budget is either. For me, I don't know absolutely everything. This is obviously such a new role, and we're stepping into a new job or whatever. I'm a very, very eager learner, and one of the first things I'd be doing if I was lucky enough to get the job, I'd be going straight to the chair, I'd be going straight to some of the higher ups in the class council, the class rep council, and just to learn from them. They have the experience, they've been at it. I've only been at one, to be totally honest, and I really enjoyed it, and I have a couple of ideas myself that I love to implement and try and incentivise it. But I would be also more so looking to learn from people that have been through it, people that would have very good suggestions. Like we saw from the motions that were put forward the last night, there's an awful lot of intelligence in the room there, and they're very willing to put their ideas forward. I'm sure there'll be some great ideas for this particular question, and I'd love to hear it from them, and I'd love to implement it.
Okay, and finally, Nisha.
I actually do have an idea, a vague idea of what the budget is, but I'm not entirely sure whether I'm allowed to say it right here. If you get back to me afterwards, I will check and reaffirm it. I promise I'm not finding out what it is. As to incentivising, from having spoken to the chair of the Class Rep Council, Katie Dawson, she certainly feels that the Class Rep Council itself needs to be tougher on class reps, making sure that they're attending. I know Emer was talking about reducing the amount of Class Rep Councils they can miss. Yeah, that's about it. I guess just be tougher on reps and make sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, so now I have individual questions which have been raised over various promises and issues you guys have raised. So starting with Jack, you have promised a RAG week for students on more than one occasion. DCU actually hire and pay someone to organise their main events, which takes the responsibility of organising events away from sabbats. So Rag Week is actually already in existence here, and is organised by the DCU Rag Society and has existed for about 2 years. I'm just wondering why exactly you thought that organising a Rag Week would fall under your responsibility, and whether you know anything about the week itself that we do here.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, but like, if I get elected into this role, I want to engage and promote these events. Like the Rag Week, I knew it was in place, but I want to promote it. I mean, there's events that are in PATS that I want to retain as well. So like, I don't want these events to just dismantle. And I was asked a question earlier about this role having nothing to do with events. I completely disagreed with that, because I think every role in the SU has in some way got to deal with events. So I would I want to engage and promote it. Like, I want to bring certain PATS events up to DCU so we can all integrate, and I want to bring certain DCU events to PATS so there is an amalgamation that's going to happen, and we need to, in this role particularly, whoever gets assigned to it is going to shape how that role is going to be dealt with. So I think that the engagement and development role is very important for whoever gets it this year.
Next up is Emer. One of your main focuses is the UNEEN module. How do you plan on introducing UNEEN into courses that don't currently have it? Who are you going to talk to and campaign with so that all students can avail of UNEEN and be recognised and rewarded for their extracurricular activities through credits?
Okay, yeah, I know that this is a big ask, and I know that it's not going to be done. It might not even be done by the end of the year if I am elected. I can't promise that it will be, but I will definitely establish that it will be in work, like it will be work in progress. So basically, the first thing you would do is you go to each board, like each the head of each faculty as well. Working with the faculty reps is hugely important here. The SU and the class rep council have a lot of control here. The class rep council can put forward a motion and the exec have to look at that motion. So it needs to be just addressed, even if it's not in place. It needs to be looked at that it should be offered to students. I know, like, even nurses themselves don't have it made available to them, but maybe if it was made available to them, they would like to take part in it. It's not about that it should be there for them, it's that it should be at least offered to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keith, you said that if a certain class rep has poor attendance, you'd go to the other class rep and get somebody new elected. This year was very difficult to even get class reps in the first place, especially for some final year classes. Many times they were just there to help out with certain issues but had no actual interest in SU policy. What are your plans for the classes where no one wants to run for class rep?
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, and I know that that's definitely going to be an issue. I suppose that's around the whole thing of incentivizing it, and not like these are people that are doing it for no like financial gain or anything like that. They're putting their own time aside and they're going out and they're attending the class rep meetings. Like, if there was an issue with that, that somebody wasn't interested in doing it, you'd have to make it a personal job of yourself, that if they couldn't put someone in place that was willing to go every single meeting, that I feel like whoever gets the job would have to take on the role of contacting them individually, making a personal connection with them. And so you might end up giving some people a free rein that they wouldn't have to go to the meetings because they don't have the time or whatever, but you trying to get in contact with them, find out the needs of the class, find out what their own ideas are, and then let them know about other things that are going on in the college.
Okay. Nisha, you want to introduce a week-long clubs and societies fair on every campus. Why do you think this is necessary? Where will these fairs be located on each campus? How will you get people there? And how feasible do you think it is given the size of committees involved in clubs and SOCs, and how this could interfere with their academic attendance?
Okay, so this is probably the most complicated aspect of my manifesto. I know it's possible. I haven't gone into tiny details about how I'm going to implement it. What I've established so far is that it's going to be terrifyingly complicated, but I think it's very important, because from what I've gotten from talking to people is that they haven't been able to get involved with clubs and societies because they just haven't been able to make it to the 3 days. And it's absolutely vital that it happens on every campus, because otherwise we just the people on the other campuses outside of, say, Glasnevin and maybe Pat's, they just won't understand how many societies we have going on. Even if we get even people won't go out of their way to look at the Clubs and Societies website. So I think that's why it's absolutely important. As to how I'd implement it,
Do you have any idea of where you would hold it on each campus?
that's a big question. The sports hall in Pat's, we don't have a venue next year, so that's going to be a problem. I would say we'd be looking at the Helix or maybe setting up a marquee in Glasnevin. Mater Day, from the times I've been there, I would say the car park out in the front, I have actually yet to make it out there during the daytime, but from what I've seen, like the front entrance just along the gate, just before between the buildings and the gates, I'm explaining this very badly, but between the buildings and the gates there's like a just giant stretch which I believe we can fit a good plenty of stalls in, so that's where I put it on Mater Day. As to the rest of the campuses, I don't know just yet.
Okay. Stephen, you promised a nap room for students. Which campus will this be based on, and how do you think you'll find space for it? Which, like, clearly space is going to be very limited next year, so where do you think you're going to put this?
I don't know. I'll look into it. It was something that completely came off the top of my head in hustings, and I thought it was a great idea when I came up with it. I'll definitely be looking into it.
Before the debate, I asked each candidate to write down the colleges that will be joining DCU through the amalgamation. I'm now going to read out their answers. So Emer, you said St. Pat's, All Hallows, Mater Day, CICE and DCU Glasnevin. Jack, you said St. Pat's, All Hallows, Mater Day. Nisha, Glasnevin, DCU Innovation, DCU Sport, St. Pat's, Mater Day, All Hallows and Churches of Ireland, College of Education. And Keith, you said DCU, St. Pat's, Mater Day and CICE. And Steve, you did not write anything down. It is in fact DCU, St. Pat's, Mater Day and CICE. So thank you all for taking part in this debate. Next up is the race for welfare, and Rachel Kelleher interviewed the candidates last week. Here is the video.
Just those kind of small little things I think would be a big kind of bonus.
I think over the last 3 years in DCU I've worked with an incredible range of people. So I've volunteered with people with intellectual disabilities, ex-prisoners and homeless people, and this has just given me a really good basis for working with other people, and I think I'm absolutely the best candidate for the job. I'm so confident in what I can do if I'm elected, and I'm just really passionate. I just want to help people, and the last 3 years in DCU have shown me that I'm a really good fit for this position.
Well, I think I should be running for this position because I have the personality and characteristics to go for this position. After 3 years in Pat's, I've had such a great experience, and I think the whole amalgamation side in Pat's and DCU, I think I can incorporate the spirit and the camaraderie that we had in Pat's up in DCU as well, and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm a Grey's Anatomy expert.
When I was 15, I called 2 cops, 1 ambulance, 1 fire truck to my dad's apartment.
That's FM.
Good evening and welcome to the debate for the Vice President of Welfare and Equality. I'm Aaron McElroy and I will be talking to Shane Parsons, Alison Ring and Guy Byrne. The Vice President of Welfare and Equality is responsible for issues such as engagement on campus, student accommodation and health and well-being of students, be it mental, physical or sexual health. And it is sexual health that I will begin with this evening. So all 3 of you made it clear that sexual consent is something that you will consider very important for the upcoming year. Shane Parsons, you have it in your manifesto that you want people to know that it's okay to say no, but at Hustings last week in DCU you made a joke about it. Do you feel this is something that you're okay with, and for people voting you that they feel this is okay, and if you're elected would you be liable to make a similar joke to someone who came to you in the office?
Yeah, I did make a joke and I really regret it. It just came out. No, I wouldn't be like that. If someone came to me up in the office, I'd be completely serious with them. It is an issue. Sexual health is an issue and sexual consent is an issue. and people need to be more outgoing with it. And I think I can help people to be more outgoing with it, bringing in consensual workshops and so on. That joke was brought totally out of context, and I don't think people should really take much heed of it, to be honest.
And Alison, you've said that you want to refocus Shag Week to make it, to look at the harder issues that are affecting the students. How would you say that you'd be fit to get attendance for some of the much harder workshops and talks, if you think that students would find it a bit awkward to be attending some of these?
Yeah, we were asked this question in hustings too. How are you going to get people to come to, say, the less popular events? So with Shag Week, there's a lot of kind of like fun events talking about like STIs, and they actually are educational events too. There's a lot of events like basically getting people talking about sex and opening up that conversation on it. And to introduce something like consent workshops is probably not going to be that popular, you're right, but I think introducing them is the important thing. And I think once people realise this issue, they'll actually come to them. I think it's really important to have good content, to have good people coming in giving the consent workshops, so it's not going to be me delivering them. We'll outsource that definitely and have legitimate people coming in and talking to the students. I think I'd aim it at first years because I think they're probably the most kind of vulnerable coming into college. They don't really know maybe when they're being taken advantage of or when they're not. I think that's what I do, and I encourage people to come in groups because obviously it's easier if you're there with a group of friends than just turning up on your own. That's how I go about it, but I think even if they're not popular at the start, that's not a reason not to run them. This has to be done, and we need to roll it out. Even if I'm not elected, if it's one of the two lads, I know that it will be done next year, and I'm happy to say that as well.
And Cody, for consent classes, would you see them as something that you could make mandatory for all incoming first years, or what would your approach to it be?
So there's a difficulty with making something like that so mandatory. It would actually turn people off the idea, not necessarily off the idea of consent, but of attending classes like that in future. I think that the key is, there's two in essence. The first is that to not target it directly at men. Consent is a two-way street, and it should be just a general kind of conversation. We need to reduce the kind of stigma surrounding talking about sex in a normal way. Sexual activity, sexual orientation is part of all of our identities, and is definitely something that should be suppressed. I think that in our society, in general, maybe due to a lack of pre-existing sexual education, we think it's like something that's like funny, and it's not funny, especially when you have all these events and when you come to college and there's such a heavy drinking environment, which is then, collaborated with this pressure to engage in sexual activity. That's an issue. With regards to making it mandatory, I think that when you're having the talk, for example, in the Helix, that is the absolute perfect opportunity to just be listen, college is different to secondary education. You have so much more freedom, and you need to use that freedom wisely. You don't need to go around sleeping with A, B, and C because they depict that in Skins or Misfits, and that's the college experience. We need to highlight that you will be put in environments where sex will be brought up. How none of us have been to a pre-drinks where we don't do never have I ever, and someone throws out I haven't been in a threesome or whatever, and then everyone drinks like legends. That's an issue, and not an issue in the sense that we're not talking about it in a normal way, but we're pushing it. It's constantly there, and it's constantly being associated with alcohol. So we need to just have it as an open thing in the beginning during orientation in the Helix, and then provide it throughout the year.
And Cody, I'll stay with you for this next one. I'll move on to the mental health, and you have something that you can say about the counselling, and you had suggested that a peer-to-peer support system would be a way of delegating the support, or delegating the traffic brought to the counsellors and allowing it to be spread across to different services. Have you been looking into how this would be funded, or how much it would cost, and how the support would actually be working?
Yeah, well, the day, I wasn't going to incorporate that into my manifesto until the Wednesday before election started on the following Tuesday, so 2 Wednesdays ago, because I met with Claire Bohan from Student Support and Development. And it was completely coincidental because they actually just had a meeting that day about mental health and the mental health issue that their college is currently facing. And they were literally, it was weird because I presented it and this is my idea, because it was basically just bringing the work that the Mental Health Hub and that the Walk and Talk Society have been doing already all year onto an online platform. And that was exactly what was brought up. So it was like fate or something. Sorry guys, I have fate on my side. I'm kidding. Sorry. Yeah, so in terms of funding, all you need to do is you need to have, there's two things that are going to be in terms of costs. The actual student volunteers, they just need to be trained. There need to be workshops, and they need to have some sort of certificate to say that they were trained in online active listening. I've already been talking to the counselling department about this. It's something that will just be kind of incorporated as part of their training anyway. So I don't know how much that would cost. I don't think that would be too much. And then just actually developing it as an online platform. Those are the only two costs associated.
And have you been talking to the ASS? Are they who you'll be dealing with in developing it?
There's going to be a number of different faculties. So you're going to have, like, you're obviously going to have that counselling department, like, so heavily involved. Then there's, like, the finance departments, like, even, like, the disability services, like, occupational therapists, like, every relevant department we're going to have involved. ISS is going to be one of those departments. I'd imagine, from my own ideas, it's just going to be off the DCUSU website. It just has a platform, just kind of there. And all you need is the relevant marketing to make people know that it's there and it's available for 2 hours a day or whatever we end up making it to be.
And Shane, I'll go to you next. You have suggested that there will be a mentoring program set up for students. And how would the students who are involved on the listening side of this, how would they be trained to help out with students who are looking for help?
Well, it's called assist training, and it's on during, you can do it whenever during the year. Basically, you just train in students to talk to students about other issues, like such as, say, if you want to drop out of college, say you're not enjoying your course, you don't like the course at all, just like a student who can, instead of going to the counsellor, you can talk to the student. Oh no, wait, you can go, you can try a different course or something like that. Just giving them a sense of like help there. Basically, the mentorship program is training in students to take off the counsellor service with smaller problems, and to speak to other students, like speaking to your friends, like to speak to a friend. Basically, simple. Like, there wouldn't be much training involved in it, but there would be a certain amount that would be needed. And it's called assist training. I'm going to get it myself during the summer if I elect it.
And have things like this been proven in other places that they work, that would some students not feel a bit awkward about talking to a friend or someone of their own age group or class about these issues?
Yeah, well, like, it's basically just like a class rep. If you have a problem in your class, you go to your class rep. Is the class rep system, are you afraid to go talk to your class rep? It's the very same aspect. As in, if it's brought in, we'll know, we'll try and get it in, we'll try and make it work. Hopefully it can work, and hopefully it will.
And Alison, you've been looking to incorporate or to combine physical and mental health, because you see that they are both interlinked. How will your physical health week be run? Will it be run with mental health, and how will you make sure that it'll be sustainable throughout the whole year?
Yeah, and it won't be run with the mental health week. I think the reason for the physical health week is we currently have a mental health week, we have a sexual health week. Now we need to start looking after our physical health too. The World Health Organization released statistics earlier this year saying that by 2030 Ireland is going to be the most obese nation in Europe. And if we don't start addressing this along with our mental health and our sexual health, then we are going to be in trouble. And students, when they move away from college and when their eating habits change, when their living habits change, this is when physical health becomes a real issue. So it will be separate to mental health week, but the link I was making between them is that we don't often use physical health with mental health like we should, because there is a massive knock-on effect. If you are physically fit, if you're going out and exercising, if you're eating well, you feel so much better about yourself. So that was the link there, but the physical health week itself will be run separately, but hopefully with links to it. If there's a guy called Pat Divley Fitness, down in Galway. He was severely depressed, set up his own basically fitness boot camp, now runs his own gym and has a whole backstory to how this helped him get through really tough times. And it's people like that I want to bring in for the physical health week. So I want to do exercise, I want activities every day, but not just that. I want nutrition classes, I want to teach good habits, I want people to know, how to cook for themselves and how to cook well for themselves. And as well, as part of the mental health week, which ties in with the physical health week, an alcohol awareness day, because alcohol has an effect on your mental health but also your physical health. Everyone knows that drink, it adds to the not to me next, but do you know what I mean? There is a link between the two, so I don't want to run them together, but I do want there to be strong links between physical and mental health next year.
Yes. And I want to talk next about the accommodation crisis, because it's clear to see that there is a problem ongoing, not just in Dublin but all across the country with this. And there is a Facebook group or a Facebook page for DCU accommodation, but all you have ideas which expand beyond this or look to change this. Can you just one at a time start with Shane? Tell me, what is it that you see that's wrong with this Facebook page?
What's wrong with the Facebook page?
Yeah.
Well, I think we can broaden our horizons. Like, Facebook page, how many people are friends are still on that Facebook page that aren't in DCU anymore? Do you know, like, we need to change up things. We need to make things new. As in, I personally believe that the app that I have coming in, and I was talking to Donald Harkin as well, the welfare officer from this year still. He worked hard last year and this year to bring in an accommodation forum. Basically, what this forum does is it's a forum, obviously. The contact details of the landlord, the house is on it. You need to get a solicitor's signature off the landlord so his house can be put on it. So basically, if elected, I'll ensure that that's refreshed the whole time. So just keep it refreshed. So when a house is rented out, that house will be removed. So yeah, and then that app, accommodation clarification, I think this is a great idea. I've been speaking to my friend who does computer science, Robbie, down in UL, and he said that the app won't cost much to make. Basically what this app does is students can log on to it. I know students in 4th year are leaving college or whatever. Students in 3rd year down in Pats are leaving college. Mater Day students are leaving in 3rd year as well, 3rd and 4th year. But when they're leaving, they can offload or off their houses onto the students in younger years, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. I think this is a great idea, because I remember I got my house in college through word of mouth, but this is word of mouth, but it's on a virtual scale, so it's bigger and better, through DCU, Pats, Mater Day, Church of Ireland. It'll work for everyone, and as well, all the courses in DCU work with placement, especially down in Pats. Placement, the 3rd years are on placement in the 1st semester, and the 4th years are on placement in the 2nd semester. So basically they can sublet their houses, so you don't have to pay. I know students are paying a full year's rent or full 9 months rent, and they're only living in the house for what's the semester, 6 months or 12 weeks. Yeah, you know, like, paying so much money. This will just help students.
But would they not be fit to sublet through different pages or through the form that you have said previously?
Yeah, they will. Obviously, that's there as well. That's the form that's coming in.
Yeah.
But this is just another app that can help students find it. Like, the more things, the better. That's the way I look at it. Anyway.
And Alison, what would you?
Yeah, I think the Facebook page has been a good resource over the last 2 years, but it kind of speaks for itself that we're working off a Facebook page here. So there's a couple of thousand people that are part of that, and probably most of them have moved on. The amount of spam you see on that, just stuff about other things, the amount of people commenting, just messing, like tagging people that aren't looking for accommodation. And this makes it really hard, especially for international students coming over. First years, they have no idea who's actually putting up a posting or who's not, and that's the real problem with the Facebook page. You actually don't know if the information, you can't verify, is this real, is it not?
Did you not bring in tighter moderation or something like that to try and
Well, I think there's a much simpler way to do it. Why don't you control the information yourself, then, rather than having loads of random people putting it up? So that's what my idea is with the accommodation advisory service. This is gathering existing information, putting it together and putting it in the one place. It's bringing the listings that are put up, the legitimate ones that are put up on the Facebook page, putting them on the SU website, on the accommodation part of it, and posting them there. Posting up 10 questions you should ask your landlord when you go to view a house. Putting up all the listings and contact details of the student accommodation, be it in Pats, be it the Glasnevin campus, be it Schoolhouse Square, be it Shinoan, whatever. You'd be surprised how many people have never heard of Gateway. Okay, it's simple things like that, and it's bringing those easier models of student accommodation together and putting them there at the start of the summer for the first years coming in and for people returning, and then it's dealing with the people who can't find accommodation past that, and that's where the Facebook page does kind of come in as a backup. And what I'm proposing to do, I just think it's a simple way to put everything together, and I think it really will help. It will streamline people's questions about accommodation, and they'll be sent to there, and if they have a follow-on question, the welfare number is there, and they can ring and I will answer.
And Cody, finally to you.
Yeah, well, basically, that we should stop using the Facebook page as a primary source of information. I just think, quite simply, just put it on to the DCUSU website. We need to start making the DCU website more relevant for DCU students. The SU website, no one really uses, but if we upload more additional information onto it, it becomes more important. Basically, it's quite simple. You need to look at the motivation behind why people do certain things. You have two types of landlords. You have your digs landlords and you have your actual accommodation housing landlords that rent out houses to students. Houses are becoming less and less prevalent, and we need to look at why. Whereas digs are becoming more and more prevalent, but they're less common, and they're less popular. So with the digs landlords, they are going to be motivated to upload their information with their profiles, photos, costs, just additional information onto an actual website, because they're the ones that are going to be personally benefiting from it. They're the ones with rooms that are spare. Whereas the actual landlords that are providing houses, they're not going to be motivated to do that. They're going to be like, well, I have a family of 3 that are going to take it over, a bunch of 7 students that are going to trash the gaff anyway. So you need to remove the traffic that's occurring from the digs landlords, put them onto a website where digs is available. Eventually everything will be on that website, but you need to put the digs landlords onto that website, then chase up the additional housing landlords and see if you can put their information on there as well. So you still will have that as an overall arching kind of platform, a primary source of information, particularly for international students. Because I've dealt with 3 international students. I do a lot of work as a student master with the international office, and I've kind of just become friends with them. 3 of them this semester have already been evicted from their digs landlords just because, no reason. And it's because you're getting these kind of shady landlords in. So this is a more viable, valid source of information. And then use this Facebook group as a secondary backup in case something goes astray, like, you have an accommodation, you're going on placements, they want to take the room kind of thing. That's all grand, but it shouldn't be a primary source of information. And then you back up the digs and the accommodation, particularly the digs, with legal contracts, because again, they're going to be motivated to do that. The landlords who are actually providing houses aren't. If you remove the digs traffic, which accumulates majority of Donald's accommodation traffic, that frees up more time for you to contact pre-existing or all previous students who have rented off landlords in years gone by, and see if they'll get back on board to servicing students. These legal contracts will also ensure that students become more kind of emotionally obliged to look after the house, because again, you have students throwing these house parties, and at these end of the year party things, great words, and then they wreck the house, and then landlords just don't want to give to students in future years, and it's just it's a cycle. So we need to just look at the picture on a global level, and just simply start shifting it towards being more professional. And then, as Alison said, what questions do you ask landlords? What are your tenant rights? So you can't be evicted on the spot because that's illegal, and people don't even know that. There's loads of simple measures we could be taking.
Yeah, and finally, I'd just like to say to you, it's been the theme of all the debates here running this week about that next year you will be working across all the campuses. And how would you find that, especially with welfare being one of the most important aspects of a student's life, how do you think that you'd be fit to maximise your effectiveness across all the different campuses? And I'll start with Alison in this one.
Yeah, so I think we can't be everywhere at once, and we can't say now I'm going to be on X campus for X amount of days a week, because we actually just don't know that yet. We don't know if we're allowed to allocate our time like that. We don't know what our obligations are going to be to each campus. So it's going to start fresh as week orientation week. We get out there on the ground, whoever it is, and I know the 2 lads will be the same. You get talking to people. So first of all, they know you're there. You approach them, don't wait for them to approach you. And then they won't be as afraid to contact you on your welfare phone, add you on Facebook and drop you a message, so that even if you're not on campus or on their campus, that they're still not afraid to get in touch with you and say, okay, I'm looking for help. Then we need to utilise the other sabats. So there will be 2 sabats based on the St. Pat's campus, and we need them to work with us. Basically, they're our eyes and ears on the ground there when we can't be there. There is the option of, can we swap offices for a week where I work down there, giving the St. Pat's students better access to me, and they work up here giving the Glasnevin students better access to them. But then there's Mater Day as well, there's CICE. We are going to have to figure out a way that those students feel comfortable enough to contact us with technology and not just with us being in their campus.
And Cody?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is that I actually didn't know this until this semester, but all Sabats, part-time and full-time, get welfare training. So it is quite nice to know, and comforting, I hope it is for other students, that everyone is trained in welfare issues, that we all receive the same training. We would just know it more extensive, and that's just through experience. It's essentially just comes down to mobility and communication. So just making sure that you're constantly moving out, and I mean, ideally in an ideal world, we're not constantly in our office like waiting, for people to come to us, because that's kind of like what I call a treatment model. It's effective in the short term for one individual, but on a global level, it doesn't do anything. So by going out, getting your name heard, getting people to know why they would go to you, how do they contact you, those are just key information. It can be done quite simply. The first 2 weeks of semester are key, just so everyone knows who you are. And sorry, you can ask.
Sorry to rush you, but we're running out of time. And finally, Shane.
Yeah, it is going to be very difficult. Like, as in, I'm only one man. I can't be everywhere. But the two,
you're a great man.
Cody and Alison, they said it all really. Like, as in, Alison said it. Freshers Week, the first few weeks are vital. You have to get out there on the floor, talking to students, making students aware of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what your job is. I don't think it's fair that the office is just in DCU. Why can't there be allocated times in PATS, in Mater Day, in Church of Ireland? All the students are going to be treated equally from each campus, and I don't think that's treating a student equally if you're based just in DCU. I know DCU is massive. There's 16,000 students. That's huge.
That's in addition to St. Pat's.
That's it. That's with PATS as well. 16,000. That is massive. It's going to be hard, but we just have to really work hard to make it work.
Sorry for rushing to the last question, but we are running out of time. I'd like to thank all the three of you for joining me here and talking to me. Now, next up we have the debate for the Irish officer, and Megan Rowntree will be moderating this, and she spoke to them earlier in the week.
Fair blian díos agus is as Kirky me.
So Christina ní lá hí na Sanadon, agus tám sa céad blian fi láthair ag déidir staidir ar bhain míteoir. Tám a ní mlíana déagdís agus tám as baile beag bídeach darb anam béleasa i gan leio.
Smisha Barrow Scanlon agus Simlena tá a chuirstear fust ofigan na Gaeilge. Is maclín Gaeilge agus Frankisma tá a fís a him blian díis agus Simlena tá a caiithú blian Erasmus in Lyon sa rang.
Gagam don Greg agus ha taréis an Greg chu chun cín os a bhí mé an óg. Nuair bhí mé sa ceir blian san idir blian, bhí mé obair le mo bhúntóir agus cúpla daoine eile a bhí an Gaelscoil agus rinne mar club chorá in our scoil agus bhunamar é sin agus in éistá sé anna bhór agus tá sé an rud cúla dhéanamh dé híine ag an lón, so tá sé anna gheas.
So anyway, bevrálam an Gaeilge chuirchan cín is even an Gaeilge, so mar sin tá mé gur chuirchan cín sa chláiste. Ach cumála sin feicm an méid deisina i DCU chun an Gaeilge Herbert in meas na daoine cosú le té agus plé, céalaí ar an géadaon, cuairtaí Gaelach agus dátaí dála fiú. So is bua í ar teanga agus bu ceart go máin na macléin ar fád tarbhas.
Well, tá mis agree.
So, fáilte mór haig na iarthirí. Tá muid grann an díosbaracht seo a dhéanana trí measc an béarla agus Gaeilge mar thuig muid nach go Gaeilge ag gachtainna atá féchann seo an nacht. So tá muid. So ceis generaltá se dús, céird é do tuiscint ar an post seo. Céird atá an duine sa ról seo go líonna nach bhfuil cum an Gaeilge íonna hána hain. So bar mo a ggéirtas nu.
An chéad rud siad me se cinan rud is startaí ná an scéim conaí tá a gin na sfanim blian siúgin. Na campsí le ar fud na tíra bhfuil scéim conaí acu agus in ábrion scéim conaí a go mhaid. Ten ofiige Gaeilge agus in ofiige Gaeilge teag fástaí ag an osscoil a gcónaí go glú leis na daoine na scalaí tá an agus sin antí ag an obrion se go mhaid cos otherwise ní anhuid siad dadí agus sin cinan rud is mó. Agus siadam marial go an duine seo ar an exec ceisiad bheith obair leis na execs a lig eile agus an ar an SU. Agus na societies a lig le Gaeilge go thuirte hon an common sin agus a gcónaí fásta núsar sin leis an student body le den áid.
Okay, thanks Christina.
Well, Catherine, mar aon duine tá ar an intas macléin tá orfos chun takeíocht de chóirsfik na macléin ilig atá i DCU agus caiimiid an Gaeilge chuirchan cín comá. So caiimiid takeí de chóirstómh, caiimiid imachtaí a chuirsú, aibú leis an gom an Gaeilge, aibú le gacha de duine atá fun acu gaeilge a labhairt agus an tá fád a bheith ann don amach líon ar fad.
Cáin tú leis sin?
Yeah, ein tíam cinnte ceapan go bhfuil sé suas don if go gaeilge ceapan bliana freisin chunáis nascaíanamh idir an SU idir agus idir na cuman goil a freisin mar tá siad ag meascú agus tá siad i géirí teacht le chéile mar cuman amháin agus tá ceir tasáil wet uhu like cinnte ón ifcoch na gaeilge agus cumáile sin ceapan go bhfuil gomáid sin níos fearr más ruí go bhfuil daine ón aontas na maclainn ag na ócáidí a bhíons ag na ag an cuman gaeilge agus ruí mar sin Indian low version.
Okay. So the next one we'll discuss in English because it is relevant for not just Irish students. What are you going to do for the international students? Because we have a huge amount of international students coming to DCU every year. So how are you going to encourage them or promote Irish for people that actually don't have a word of it and never learnt it in school? So Koch, if you want to start.
That's actually a really big point of my manifesto. It's something that I felt really strongly about initially, because I think when we go to a foreign country, like, you know yourself, you want to learn the language, you want to learn the culture, you want to learn the dance, you want to learn everything. And I think that if international students come in first, whenever they get their presidential address, that they should be told straight away about the Irish language officer and how they can get access to when classes are going to be on, how they can learn how to Irish dance and things like that. Like when they come in first, they learn about how important clubs and societies are, because societies, we are the society capital of Ireland, and there's straight away there's an emphasis put in it. We have a clubs and socks week straight away, whereas even though we are a bilingual campus and we're one of the few colleges in Ireland that actually offer courses through Irish, there's nothing kind of indicating international students to that whenever they come in first. Now I know they do learn about the culture and they do take classes for that that their lecturers supply, but they don't mix with the students the same, so they wouldn't actually get the chance to meet students who are studying through Irish unless they have someone like the Irish language officer just kind of linking the two together. So, yeah, Christina?
Yeah, so a lot of the points I have in my manifesto link into that. So for example, like the events like Teagus Play, Katie Haran Gading, things like that, that we'll be working with different societies and clubs to help integrate, you know, bilingual events the whole time, so that they have, you know, they can fall back on whatever language they have, but they can, you know, make that extra effort to speak Irish. And we have those events already here in DCU, but what I want to do is make them open for everyone. I want to make sure everyone knows that they are welcome to come and speak whatever Irish they have. If they have none, we want those people who are fluent and who are comfortable to be working with those people and promoting the Irish language, because we have such an amazing and unique culture. It is so amazing, and it'll be such a pity if nobody gets to see that when they come to this country.
Yeah, and Barra, do you think it's realistic to expect like international students to pick up Irish or to be interested in the Irish language?
Definitely to be interested. I couldn't agree more that I'm actually doing Erasmus at the minute, so I am an Erasmus student, I'm an international student, I'm a foreigner in a different country.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing when you can't mix with the people of that country, you can't see their culture. So like for me, I had to get a job in a bar to meet actual French people. And when I give I give Irish classes in first year, and like 90% of the people who came to classes were always foreign students. I had like Turkish people, German people, Persians, really people from all over. They were the most interested.
Okay.
And
Great.
I was said earlier at the hustings that we have the Lingua Culture space in the Henry Grattan, which is run by the SALIS, the School of Applied Languages and Intercultural Studies. And it always has events in Chinese, German, French, Spanish, all these other languages, but never seems to be having events in Irish. So I think it's a space that we can use already, which
Definitely.
already attracts international students. So make the most of it.
Yeah, definitely. This question might tie in. So tá ceappa gur chibalog grosh begéir siúmar gaeilge I DCU. Do you not think that this is kind of should we not be focusing more on making Irish and English coexist rather than having, you know, an exclusive Irish room away in a corner which excludes Irish speakers and it excludes English speakers in a way? Would you agree with that, or do you think that there's a need for it? So if Christina wants to start.
Yeah, well, no, I completely agree with that we need to have Irish and English coexist, because that is the reality that we have today. And I think that is one of the problems we have with the Irish language, that people who don't speak it feel that we get angry with them when they aren't as passionate about Irish as they were, and that might have been the case in the past, but that's not the case now. We want everyone to feel comfortable while we're speaking Irish, while we're speaking English. I have people coming up to me apologising for the fact that they don't have Irish. Now, I in a way that's good that they understand that the Irish is a great thing to have, but as well, they shouldn't feel like they have to apologise. They should feel that they can come approach me and say, look, I need help with this. Can you help me with this? I want to learn the Irish language. And if they feel like they're on the defence constantly, that's not going to, like, they're not going to want to make that effort, because they'll feel scared. I know we have a Shomer Cardiff in Patrick stats at the moment, and some students are very nervous about coming in because they know they don't have that confidence in the language to go and speak it openly. So I want to create a Seomra Cadre where everyone can go in and speak whatever language they have and whatever bit of the language they have.
Barry, can you happen to say?
I agree in a way, but also don't agree. I think that it's not necessarily excluding people, but I think that it's giving Irish people a context to meet and a place to meet, because I mean, like, just outside we were all speaking Irish together, but I mean, when we came here at first, I didn't know we spoke Irish. We spoke English to each other all the time. So until you meet in a context where you speak in Irish, then you're going to bring the Irish outside of the room. So I can see where you're coming from, that maybe you're excluding to a point, but obviously you want to try and make it as welcoming as possible. But I think we need this kind of context and this physical space to meet in the first place. Otherwise you're walking around the street meeting people who actually speak Irish and love it, but you don't know that because you've never had that experience, that opportunity.
I completely agree. It's just an outlet for the language rather than an exclusive space. Like, even we have our Fionter labs, like, where we just kind of have computers where we all sit down and we all know each other have Irish, so we use that space to speak Irish. But if some of us, like, if we bring our friend in, whatever, we're not going to just speak Irish. If they don't understand, we're going to talk to them as spare the fresh.
Okay, so I think we should tábhacht a sin a rála daoine, mar nuair léon tú faoi siúmar mar sin tú ceappa ó níl cadamsa go seasta siúmar sin manuel gailgasach maam. So Jaren gohfuil se tá sib se rá gohfuil se begéire áit cinál go gasan sib le na chéile so gailga algaí acha sin, you know, tá cadig daoine eile teachach tá couple focail acabag sa mar sin, yeah? Okay, so Christina, one of your points is to have a discount card for Irish speakers. How much have you looked into this? Because it's unlikely that places like Spar and Starbucks and things will offer discounts, because they haven't done it for the society cards and the club cards that we all have with RAG and MPS and everything. So, and also have you considered the fact that, you know, a lot of the staff in these restaurants and shops, they don't speak Irish. So kind of have you looked into the different factors that people might argue against these?
I have considered it and talked to different people about it, and I do understand that some people might, some places on campus might have hesitance, so that's why I was talking about it in the hosting today. I've actually broadened that out to maybe shops and restaurants around campus that might do it. As well, the point of the Gael Quarter would be that you've already proven that you have Irish, so you don't have to use it in the shop if that person does have Irish. Now, in reality, people will understand if you want to use those cúpa focail, they will understand that you know, they won't understand how much Irish you use in the shop. You say Gurmagat, Mosh the Head, things like that. So there is very little Irish required, but it's that little extra effort that I want to reward, and that's why what we would have in place is that maybe in cooperation with the Common Gaelach, that once people have come to a certain amount of events, they would be rewarded with the Gael Quarter. So they've proven that they have the Irish and that they want to speak the Irish, and that's how they would be rewarded. I'm not going to be giving them out everywhere and then only if they speak Irish in the shops, and it would be too much confusion with that. So it would be kind of a graded system.
Okay.
Where people would have
Can I just ask a question? Just, is it like the one that Conor na Gaeilge has already? Do you know the way
it would be kind of like that, but more, you know, focused on the DCU campus, you know, so that, you know, it would be closer and more useful to DCU students.
Okay, so Barrett, like you said already, you were gone for a year, and it's unlikely that you had the opportunity to speak Irish or to use Irish or, you know, have the culture around you. So do you think that that'll hinder you at all, because it was a whole year away from it?
The only way that I think it'll hinder me is that sometimes I'm speaking with French speaking habits.
Okay.
Like a little bit of my spoken Irish is obviously, I don't have the same severus that I had before, but like in terms of passion, culture, drive, absolutely not. Actually, the minute I'm looking into setting up a mini Conor na Gaeilge in Lyon, I'm speaking with the Common Lucas Gael Hallan Shin, I guess Tamajis Giri Gaeilge a while you so I don't think in terms of passion, drive, anything like that, if anything, it's probably strengthened it.
Okay, so great. Tá sé belogar an óla scoil sean smá go mé cuasaí Gaeilge gal síos go dtí All Hallows nó tá siad caint faoi. Bara a dús cad happen tú faoi seo, cad a smuinte faoi sin?
Well, you'll then you'll be sussed lei sin. Agus go hairí ní luchtla Gaeilge. Ach, ag an náam cearna sílam na bhfuil DCU genu a déangró ní hé go se géirí Virginia chur fada ó campus seo níl se genu a gháil mar go se géirí a dhéanú. I think gohfuil sa rí dalí da DCU an rud seo a bhainistú agus a dhéanú go maiid. Agus sílam go druci muid faoi dhearú ag ponse a bhfuil muid le aríon an sin, but ag an náam cearna Fanya Michaelin na Gaeilge tá se na frachas, really. But níl an solution agam sa go fáil ach ní sílam go DCU genu a on purpose was my dad.
Okay. Agus Christina cad happen does it?
Yeah, Tomer bhfuil fi sin níl sé ferte curbe a goir maclín iad a chur látíh níl sé sin fráte go chóir go an ghil go mar tá sé sais vulnerable mar sin tá an nurtún sin wehí agus so cínte tásúla gom nach sé cínte go fóil faoi agus tá sonraí le play acu ach just sin ní is é post an ofgah na gwegas tá sin níos táhaí ná riomh mar caiimiid cultúr gweilga a crothú an seo I DCU campus don amach líon is mar ní bheith an takeid sin acu óna déictóir curbe.
Cáit cad happen does it faoi?
Well, ceam go bhfuil scuift go nachfuil mé sás leis curbe. Níl na leictóir in éon rudí dhéanamh níl nuair a tháinig siad atá chun leirlinn faoi nó rangsa dúirt siad go bhfuil níos mó cuacht a gcuine nó a bhfuil acu agus go bhfuil siad ar an ólas céine ina bhfuil muidena agus níl sé sin forráta tá sé gá seachtain a ribh támid cruicnathe soláiste agus tá siad ará seo linn agus fiú ní raibh sé ráte linn go formáilte bhí sé ráte gotí an fuair na goléir agus gachtainna bhéh obair an DCU I riomh foist ó Brain Macra agus an sin chur Kim Ésuas instant class rep Facebook leanach Facebook agus an sin conas a fuair an rang amach agus nuair bhí mé híos a pat ní raibh clúacha agus níl siad ag leir faoi níl na sunraíocha agus níl sé ní ceartdóibh an cuasa a boga éon cuasa gailge a boga don bíonn se thugan ar curbe mar níl mar ar nós níl sé chum an éon cur
Cinse, yeah. So, Koch, in your open letter, I know you sent a letter to Professor McGrath. You're very honest about anxiety and saying that being on All Hallows could negatively impact this. And then earlier today in hustings, you spoke about being nervous in crowds on public speaking.
Yeah.
So, this role requires you to be a figurehead for the Irish language, and it'll obviously be a very stressful role and involve public speaking. So, do you worry about that at all, or how it would maybe impact the role?
Yeah, well, I do. I worry about it, of course, but I have been tackling my anxiety and working with the Media Production Society for the last 2 years has really helped me battle it. And I have faced I wouldn't if you told me that I'd be doing this 2 years ago, I would never have said that I'd be putting myself forward for something like this. I put myself forward in first year for going for class rep for first year rep of MPS, and I just got really involved in things and it really boosted my confidence up. So I'm kind of recovering from it more than still a sufferer. So I would still say that I get very, very nervous in front of crowds, but it is something I'm battling with and it is something I'm dealing with, and I think that has to be recognised as well.
Yeah, and I know people definitely will appreciate your honesty because it is something that a lot of students deal with, but it definitely is something also that occurs to people. Well, it's a very demanding role and you need to be kind of up for it. So céir the plan má tá sib peochaí gun ró seo gun scéim conithe. Agus bhfuil isagaí cin freigrachtaí a bhéigh na daine atá na chonaí an bhfuil éon freigrachtaí acab má tá siad na chonaí snáir san sin, so bearmach de ggéirtas nu?
Ar dús siadam tá an rud seo chutha a bhéim don bhléin seogin ach níl alles a bhí ag na daine teag teach DCU. Siadam an bhléin seogin be se ri Jackar Dúine ní bheith na daine a chur sa seair ní bheith na daine cearta ag chur seair mar na bhfuil an talas sin ag daine níl se scapa sa snámhain socialta. A siadam mar arcantar na campus eile ar fod na tíre tá a lan freigartaí acu cai siad irí go luair an mhaidín agus gáilm agus póstrí a chursús cai siad méad áirithe amarchtaí agus rudaí agrú a rith na bliana hon gohí siad cibí airgid ag dear na bliana arás. Agus siadam ghfuil se rí mar fust agus mar agracht ag oifigin na géalaige Conneol lafa goni siadam ghfuil se ar cindan na rudaí is táirtaí don fust seo. Conneol lafa goni crunne ha rialta a an seachtain bheith acu lafa agus but siadam bhléin seogin muna dhéanamid go maiid an bhléin seogin ní bhí seogin an bhléin mar chief DCU náhfuil se gobar so siadam ghfuil se rí táirta don de cibí daine a bhís paci don bhléin seogin gannne se go maiid agus muna dhéana se go maiid ní bhí seogin.
Dus bhfuil fatíos airt nach naibrín se go maiid
Tá fatíos arm ná mé go leor daoine chur seair an bhléin fáinne an bhléin seogin agus mána gar an go leor daoine seair ní líon th na harasan leis na daoine cearta bhil be daoine chur steán náhfuil dúil acu an rilí agus siadam go fáil go bhistú náhfuil a box le teáil acu go fáil agus sin dá ro se le blianta agus sin tíana na rubber se riú but in DCU in UCD Trinity agus na háscoil na eile cai tú form online na scríomach cai tú coppla agalú dhéanú so sin ghfuil an aber sin le genú fanne an bhléin seogin was bhfuin an níos sin.
Christina, in éintinn tú le bar ceapan tú go beagnaín iirecht do gail seachas na firmacha go dtí go mé
tá actually taithí agam le tach na gaeilge mar cónium ar campus ag Glasforg agus actually cónium i deach na gaeilge le na daoine sin agus déanann siad de seachníil ar san na gaeilge agus sin chailtá chuann an ifgach na gaeilge ceiste chu éon bhfuil imeacht an cum gaeilge ar siúil bíonn siad san ann a chur an gaeilge chun chin agus tá sé ionach ar fád chuine sinna eáil agus fiúsa teach a haon tá siad ag leir gaeilge so sin cean na príomhhaim a bé ag teach na gaeilge agus freisin mar ofgach na gaeilge bé sé dechar go háir an DCU ar tá sé ag tosnú go bhfuil tuiscint ceart ag níorthirí go caithí si gaeilge a labhairt agus an gaeilge ar chuir chun chin tá cínse go méid sim ag daoine i pat chun chuisteach sa cean i DCU mar tá an taithí acu agus tá fós tá mé héin agus cúpa de macóide ag chuisteach an mína freisin bhrálam a chóirú dhéanamh ar an cean i pat mar tá sé níos an chuna síana sin mar tá sé an sean aimse fiú agus tá sé ionach go si dí meas na scoláir eile ach cumála sin níl a spás féin acu agus orintanta bhíonn siad a chuisteach ar na maclín atá fannacht an agus níos sé fráit ar na díal agus chuann sé sin teannas afterthú so cínte caithí an ofgach na gaeilge go dín díoch leis an deach na gaeilge chun cínte dhéanamh go bhfuil sé gur success.
Ein team lo go hélas go mán ach ní ceapan go broid sé an blion se hagan. Beidir má a Roma dé pí beag más ruí go fáin na daoine go léir atá éis chuisteach inis friúfois nó rih fucin sin na daoine nó fiúna daoine a aana go fáin siad rifoist i rá gur cai siad an firm seo a chuir chéile ru é mar sin is stohfuil sé sin an tain slí ar broid sé an blion se hagan.
On Simon, okay. Well, good meal you guys, Sinead. Next up is academic affairs. Claire Prenti interviewed the candidates last week, and tonight Roisin Nestor will be moderating them.
My name is James Donagh and I'm a second year computer application student.
My name is James Donoghue. I'm the current education officer. I'm a journalism graduate.
Ever since I've come to DCU, I've been heavily involved in representing students, and because of that I see many things and issues that students have, and I'd love to be able to solve their issues for them and help them with different and various issues. So that's why I want to be the next academic affairs officer, because I want to affect every student academically, both inside the classroom and outside.
I'm running because currently I'm the education officer and I love my job. It's really rewarding. You meet different students every day of the week, but also next year with the incorporation and all the new campuses, it's a fresh challenge, and I think there's some ideas I'd like to implement across all campuses, so that's why I'm running. So I suppose this year the two busiest days of the year for me were exam results, and it's extremely stressful for students, but I suppose.
Hi, I'm Roisin Nestor and I'll be hosting tonight's Academic Affairs debate. James Donoghue and James Nolan, thanks very much for joining us tonight. I'm just going to start off by asking you to briefly explain what you think you'll be responsible for as the role of Vice President of Academic Affairs. Donoghue, I'll start with you.
Yeah, academic affairs is essentially kind of two pillars: support, and the other one is representation. Support would involve around exam results, changing modules, any queries you have from students about grinds, etc. And then the second pillar, I suppose, will be representation, so across the committees, across all the campuses.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of the same, peer-to-peer support with students, working with staff through committees and through the university, building up connections with staff, working with staff as well to work on policies, and so you're working with staff to work with them to promote university, and then they'll help you promote your own manifesto as well. So it's representing students in terms of lectures, tutors, anything academic basically, so exams and the likes as well.
Okay, so Donoghue, in your manifesto you mentioned running a helpline after exams. So who would man this helpline and what kind of costs would be associated with this helpline?
I suppose it's about prioritising it, and I think it is a priority. Like, you look at the figures of students who talk afterwards, after the exams in general in first year. If you fail an exam and you talk to your lecturer or talk to someone, there's figures there from surveys to support that. And I suppose it's about putting money aside, but I contacted Student Support and Development about projects we could work on together, and they're very happy to support. So they will provide certain amount of manpower while we'll provide the rest. And cost aside, I don't think it will be that expensive, but it's something I prioritised in my manifesto. There's not that much money involved in my manifesto, so it's something we will put some money away towards. But once it's set up, that cost won't be there for the rest for the next 10 years while it's in place.
Okay. And James Nolan, you've looked at having repeat exams earlier and having the results for them earlier. Have you looked into this and contacted people to ensure that this actually can go ahead?
Yeah, so basically I was having a look at last year's elections. It's something that cropped up last year. Basically, when I was talking to a good few business students, what they were saying was that they only have 20 days to sort out an interest. So they're restricted access to the inter portal if they have a repeat. So basically, that means they have 20 days to get their inter placement, which isn't really enough. I was meeting with the inter office this year, hosting a talk for second year engineering and computing students. I did bring it up. So what I was looking at doing is having the repeat results and the exams earlier. So basically, if those two dates are that bit earlier, you're going to give those students more time to get their inter placement as well. Because business, especially with business, inter is a pivotal part of their degree, and it is a compulsory part as well. And I think it's going to help students as well in terms of their exams. So if I was to fail a repeat, so I have 2 repeats at the moment, so if I was to fail one of those, I'd have to go back into second year and do it again, and that would mean I'd have only 20 days to essentially change my plans around, change accommodation, get a job, that kind of stuff as well. So I think it's really good if we have it that bit earlier. And yes, I have connections in student support, careers, and inter-office, and I have looked into it as well.
Okay. So one of the big things this year and next year and for the coming years is going to be the amalgamation of all the campuses across, and especially for academic affairs. So how do you plan on spreading yourself and providing for all the students across all campuses? Nolan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so what I will do is I'll set out a timetable of me beyond which campuses. So we might have 4 campuses next year, we might have 3 campuses. We don't know yet, so the information isn't available. What I'll do is I'll set out a timetable before the semester starts, and then also what I'll do as well is I'll work with the faculty reps, I'll work with the class reps to get messages across, because of course you're not going to be available on campus all the time. You need to be in your office available to the students as well, so they can come up to you with any general queries they have. But what I will do is I'll send out an email at the very start. I'll send it out to class reps and faculty reps, and these are the times I'm in my office, and these are the times I'll be on this campus, and I'll have the SU hoodie on as well. It'll be very visible. It's something I've done as a faculty rep this year. Most students knew who I was, so they could come up to me. So it's all about being visible, and it's all about utilising the positions that are already there in the student union as well. Another thing is the education working group. I'm looking at setting that up for next year. So basically what that is it has elements of post-grad representation, the faculty reps on it as well, and that's how I'm going to get my message across, and that's how I'm going to keep in touch with the students while not actually being on the ground all the time, but essentially being on the ground at the same time.
And Donahue?
Yeah, I suppose despite being a bit bigger this year, I still can't spread myself across 4 campuses, but first of all it's about time management and about making sure you're allocating set time towards for every campus so you're there. Secondly, I think for students to engage with the Students' Union, you have to give them stuff to get involved in, and looking at Careers Week this year, it did engage every faculty, setting it up faculty based. I think I'd like to do that again across every campus, because it gives them something of their own, and it means that you are interacting with the students. I think the helpline is good as well. It's a good thing to be set up by students, and it means like the students will actually acknowledge that the Student Union are working for them. So that's kind of 2 kind of visible things that you do for students, but once you do that, you can do the nitty-gritty representation, and it's about making committees and stuff like that, and making their voice heard, and giving snippets of feedback on the website on what you're doing for students, emailing back every student who emails you from any campus, and then being visible, attending events, doing stuff like that. But about time management realistically, and setting yourself targets. So if I set myself a target to be on the St. Patrick's campus or the Mater Day campus for a Friday evening, I have to get my act together and get down there and not say, oh geez, I have a couple of things to do in the office, I must get to them. I have to say my target is to be on that campus that day, and that's where I have to be.
And aside from the Glasnevin campus and the Pats campus, have you visited the other campuses? Do you know where they are, James Nolan?
Yeah, so the All Hallows one is visible from the Pat's Library, so you can see the massive building there as well. The Mater Day one is not too far from it. CICE is in Rathmines. I'm aware that's shutting because, as I said, my family is from CICE, so I've been aware for quite a few years that Rathmines was closing down as well. So I do know where they all are, and of course, even if I didn't, what you do is you'd go out to them after the elections. You'd go out with the education and placement officer, you'd go out with the new executive and make sure that you know where those campuses are. And secondly, I think if you go out that bit earlier, it's given students that bit more time as well to get to know their new student union. So it's all about visibility, and especially getting to know where the resources are, where students, so getting on the ground with students and knowing where they're going to be as well.
So you know where they are, but you haven't visited them yet?
I've visited all the campuses apart. I haven't been on the Mater Dei campus itself yet, but I plan on going down there tomorrow. I'm aware that a lot of the BEds, the religious BEds, they've been on the PATS campus at the moment as well. So I will be down to visit the Mater Dei campus tomorrow, just in case a situation does arise where it's still open next year.
Okay. And James?
Yeah, like I'm in the fortunate situation where I've been on all the campuses. I've sat on committees on every campus. I added myself to the appeals committee this year on the Church of Ireland. There was only actually four appeals, but as part of the incorporation, I suppose everyone thinks the student union's only incorporating this year, and it is, but the campuses had it incorporated before. So I sat on the appeals in Church of Ireland. I sit on a number of committees in Mater Dei, and I sat on committees in St. Pat's. And I suppose the most important thing is we ran the National Student Survey across all those campuses, and it was the highest feedback ever in DCU, and that means that every course is going to be brought up to the same standard, and that getting that feedback from every campus is a positive impact. So I have been on every campus sitting on committees.
And one of the big issues that's come up in this SU election is the Fiumta lectures being moved to the All Hallows campus, and potentially the Fiumta students being moved down there as well. What do you think of this, and do you think there's anything that can be done to help these students? Is there an alternative solution? Because obviously the bilingual campus on every other campus apart from All Hallows is going to be affected. So Donahue, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I suppose like that's something that's only came out in the last week, and we're still trying to gather. Like I'm still currently working in the Students' Union. We're still trying to gather information. That obviously it didn't arise in committees or anything now. I think it was more of a strategic move. Obviously, I do feel for the students. They feel like they're being cast away or segregated and stuff like that. And I think it's about working a positive solution for those students. So working a system where they are comfortable in what happens to them, because obviously they didn't sign up for All Hallows campus, and that's fair enough, but at the end of the day probably someone is going to have to move, but we have to make whoever does move. It could be nurses. I heard nurses earlier on in the year. It could be business. There was business science was mentioned as well. So it's about making whatever change does happen is positive for students. So one thing I want to do, and looking at that, is to sit down with the registry office and the dean and faculty and set a set of guidelines towards any moves which are possible. I really don't think that all of Fiumta should be moved down. I think it should be a nice balance where you have maybe a couple of hours down in All Hallows doing an Irish module, but it's about setting out guidelines. So one problem course this year would have been the joint honours, because they were spread across courses, and there was actually, we looked into it, there was actually no guidelines strategically placed on how it was going to be done. It was one big mess, and I don't want that to happen to any course, whatever it is next year.
Yeah, so it's a very topical issue at the moment. What I would do, like there's not an awful lot of information, as it's only recently come out this week and last week. I was talking to the Fiumta students in an address, and I would be against them moving down, but what we need to do is, the reality of the situation could be that some sort of students are going to have to move down, and what it is about is ensuring that the students are happy with the solution that we provide with the student union, and also that it suits the staff as well. So it's about getting the best scenario possible for students. So like, for example, you could look at, if it was a case that we couldn't possibly avoid this situation, what you'd look at is you'd make sure that they're on the one campus one day and on another campus the next day, so they're not commuting up and down in the same day. That could be one possible solution to look at. But also what I would do is, if I was in the position at the moment, obviously I'm not, I'd sit down with the faculty rep, I'd sit down with the class reps, that's been done already, and sit down, make sure they're happy with the solution that's provided, and if not, we go back. And it is currently being looked into, and I hope the best scenario does arise out of it, and I'm sure it will, because we're very passionate about Irish here in this campus, and definitely we don't want to lose a big element of the Irish. So I do think a good scenario is going to come out of it.
Okay. And one of the other things that came up at hustings and throughout the SU elections is that no female candidate has ever been elected for the role of education, which is now split into two. But if you were elected, how would you ensure to get more females involved in education affairs, and hopefully getting one elected next year? Donahue?
Yeah, I suppose the most important thing about that is kind of encouragement. It's kind of bringing people who've worked for you and stuff, and talking to them and kind of talking them up for the role and stuff. And I talked to a number of people this year about running and stuff before I decided myself, and possibly it might take even more than that. And looking at the class rep system, there's an awful lot of really good girls involved, and they're really good class reps. So maybe it's about the student union getting out there and approaching lots of people to run for the role. Maybe part of it is as well is to go down to St. Pat's and Mater Dei and encouraging people down there to run. Maybe it's looking at elections. It's strenuous. It's a lot to take on if you're in a difficult course and stuff, and possibly part of it might be actually making it more accessible for students to run. Possibly, like, this has been going on a long time now with nominations and stuff like that, and maybe it is a bit too hard at the minute to run, so maybe we do have to look at that again and as regards nominations and stuff, and just encourage people to run in the election.
Yeah, so this year you will be aware we had a women in leadership talk. It was the first year ever. We also had the first female president we've had in an awful lot of years. But I think what you're going to see is a knock-on effect. So this year it's disappointing. There's no females running. But I think from having a female president this year, you're going to see a knock-on effect of more females getting involved. That's not to say we shouldn't encourage it, but we should encourage it across all genders. Like, we need to be gender equal here in our approach to this. The problem with the women in leadership talks were this year, they came too late. So they came in the middle of elections. Nominations had already happened. What we need to do is have that beforehand as well. We need to be encouraging women to run. We need to be encouraging class reps and all that kind of thing. We need to be encouraging women in leadership here as well. And as well as that, we just need to ensure that, you know, it's not that hard to run for election, and you can put yourself forward for these things, and you have the power. It's about empowering people and empowering them to run for these kind of things. And it's definitely possible through the class rep system as well. Like, I've been talking to an awful lot of candidates this year. Like, you see, there's more women in the part-time races than there is. I think there's only 2 women in the full-time races this year, which is shocking. That shouldn't be the case. But I think we really do need to get out there on the ground with the students and talk to them about elections and say, look, listen, it is easy, and bring in people like him, Sweeney, to encourage people to run, and have the women in leadership workshops that be more frequent, and that be before elections as well, to encourage women to run.
And as Vice President for Academic Affairs, you'll be responsible for updating the students on changes in education. And there's kind of a problem in DCU where, and across all the campuses really, that students aren't really reading their emails, or they're not engaging in events like CRC. So how would you ensure that students are listening and are hearing the updates and these changes? Donahue,
I suppose, like, you have to look at the way you promote things and stuff, and update students on changes. Myself and Deirdre spent a lot of time this year updating the website. So next year, effectively, we are going to have a weekly article from every person, so an update from everyone, from academic affairs to president, to send to the students, and that will be shared online. And you can see even from the election, the reach certain posts get on Facebook and stuff is slightly different from emails, and like word of mouth is great and stuff, so they might see that on the website. The other thing, like Gary always said to me, and I've seen it a lot this year, I'm a big believer in infographics and stuff like that. So stuff like that online. Obviously students aren't going to pick up every little policy change in the education system, but it's about getting as much positive stuff out there as well as the small bit of negative stuff if we need to kind of combat it. But it's about different avenues. I really do think the new website's going to help a lot, and then obviously we're very transparent. We have yourselves, DCUtv, we have MPS, and we have the College U and stuff as well. So we have to use as many transparent ways of getting what we're involved in out there. But I really do think the website and the articles on that weekly is going to help a lot.
Yeah, so one thing on my manifesto is the education working group. It's in the constitution. It's whereby you have, as I said, you have postgrad reps on it, you have your faculty reps, and you have then other reps as CRC wants to have on it. So what you would do is you would advise these people of any policy, any changes in policy in regards to academics. So inform your class reps, make sure they know, make sure your faculty reps know. As well as that, there is a big issue with emails here in the university. I was talking to a few Patch students today. They're like, we're getting all these emails. What the hell are we getting these emails for? So emails, I think we need to avoid that. But as James was saying, social media is going to be a big, massive aspect. You can see the reach you have on the certain things. Outlets like MPS, the website, that hopefully is going to be something big as well. But I think it's all about giving the knowledge to the class reps. If you improve the class rep system, you are going to get this information out here so much easier. I know this as a class rep. I know it as a faculty rep as well this year. The information you provide to your class reps gets out to the class, and they put it on Facebook as well. So you're looking at having like the likes of the Student Union Facebook page, their Twitter page, all the other social media pages. Then your class reps on their group course pages sending it out as well, and verbally in class as well. And then you have the likes of MPS, College View, all that's going out on social media as well. But it's about getting out on the ground as well, and that's where the class reps will come into it. They can get up in front of a class. I've done it sometimes when I was back in first year, to get up in front of a class and inform them of big changes that are coming in. For example, I got the tutorials for a maths change, so I got up in front of my class and told them that. So it's about encouraging that kind of thing as well, and I think it links back into women in leadership. If you have female class reps and you empower them to do this kind of thing, it's going to encourage them to run for elections because they're not going to be afraid. So it's all about getting out on the ground, social media, and then the education working group as well. It's going to ensure that the people on the student union are well informed of changes in academic policy.
Okay. And just lastly, what do you think is the most important issue, academic issue, for students next year? So James Nolan, I'll stay with you.
I think the most important issue is going to be the incorporation. The incorporation is going to pose massive issues for the likes of PATS. CICE coming in, they have an early learning module in third year. The BEd programme has it in first year. The current first and second years in CICE are going to be affected from that. You're going to have issues with incorporations into programmes, funding's being cut because colleges being shut down. There's going to be massive issues with that. Credits, so the PATS, the way the modules used to work, they used to be 3 credits, 3.5 credits. And they're moving to 5 credits. So there's issues with that as well. It's about getting out in the ground and nipping those things into bud before semester 2 comes as well, and ensuring that the incorporation process is smooth, and ensuring the students know where to go if they have these kind of issues and who to contact. So I want to make sure that the incorporation is fair and that it is good for every student, and it benefits both DCU students, Mater Dei, CICE, St. Pat's and all Haddo students.
And Donahue, what do you think is the most important issue?
I suppose the academic affairs one, it's a broad range of issues. Like every issue that's been highlighted in this race, it's extremely. But that's your job, to deal with these smaller issues day to day. For me, the biggest issue for academic affairs will be still getting that same pool of students across all the campuses. Like you look down in St. Pat's campus, it's tight-knit. They all approach the Students' Union. And this year and in previous years, we're probably even becoming more distant. So for me, the biggest issue for academic affairs is having that outlet for students to go to if they're struggling to change module and stuff. And that's why I really do think the helpline is going to encourage more people to contact the Students' Union and stuff like that. So for me, the biggest issue is still being a student union where students feel comfortable going for peer-to-peer, even though there's such big numbers, and some people might say, oh, I've never been up to the SU. It's about getting back, keeping that kind of homeliness nature across all the campuses. I think that's the biggest issue. Other academic issues, you deal with them anyway. It's your job, you have to do it. So I think the biggest issue is still getting that pull of students up towards the office.
Okay. James Donahue and James Nolan, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Next up will be the presidential debate, which will be hosted by Jordan Kavanagh.
Hi, my name is Ayub Bashir. I'm a final year student of Chemical and Pharmaceutical Science. This is my 5th year in DCU. I'm originally from Eritrea. It's a little country in northeast Africa, but I am an Irish citizen.
My name is Sean Cassidy. I'm a 2nd year Economics, Politics and Law student. I'm an Access student, and I am running to be the next DCU Students' Union President.
My name is Ivan Heinz. I am 21 years old. I'm a final year chemistry student from Mayo.
My name is Dylan Kehoe. I'm currently a final year communications student. I come from Carlow and I've been in DCU for 4 years.
My name is Cormac Kelty. I'm in 3rd year multimedia. I live in Glenageary and I'm 21 years of age.
Welcome to the final debate of the evening. Unfortunately, Ivan Hines couldn't be with us due to personal reasons, but welcome candidates. So we'll start off. How much research into the role have you made? How many past presidents have you contacted in the last few months? Ayub?
I've other than talking to Kim, I've talked to Aaron and Kenneth about this role. Also, rather than just speaking to the president, I've talked to other candidates like Gary, for example, from last year, and Eve, just to get like a different idea of how these things work.
Myself personally, Kenneth Brown and Paul Doherty, because Paul was the president when I first came to DCU. And aside from the presidents, then I've been talking to Collie Ollie, who was in the SU twice, and then Lorna, Eve, and all the current Sabbats.
Cormac?
Yeah, I want to make this position my own, so I really want to bring a new thing to it. So if I don't break the frontiers, who's going to the people behind me? So yeah, I've spoken to Kim and all them, but apart from that,
no one else from previous years?
I've spoken to other candidates who've ran and stuff, so I knew the ins and outs, but for me, it was just I know what I'm going to do, so I don't need outside influence in that sense.
And John?
Yeah, I would have spoken to obviously Kim, Aaron, Eve, Gary, and other sabbaticals I know from across the country.
Perfect. So next year, Exec will have more members than ever before across multiple campuses. How do you propose to stay on top and ensure everyone is spending adequate time on each campus and actually doing their job, because you will be in charge? So Cormac?
Yeah, this is something we spoke about. We've been speaking about all day. We don't know what the timetables are going to be next year yet. So obviously it's all well and good now to plan things out, but at the end of the day, we're just going to have to wait until the timetables come out. I have no problem traveling. I travel every day for 3 hours in and out of college. So I won't spend more time in Glasnevin than I will in Pats or any of the other campuses.
Yeah, but you're also going to have to maintain that people are doing your job. So how are you going to stay on top of them and like get them to check in with you?
Just call them, text, media, everything. It's 2016 and it will be 2017, so I don't think staying in touch with people will be a problem.
Dylan?
Two very simple things: time management and leadership skills. I feel like I have abundance of both. One of the great things and the great opportunities about the role next year is that we have these campuses, we have extra people, we have extra manpower, and all these people to work with. It's a really good opportunity, and yeah, I think it's something that the presidents can relish and really take on, grab a hold of, and put their stamp on.
Okay, Ayub?
Yeah, communication is key, obviously. I'd like to obviously travel to the other campuses whenever I can, delegate jobs whenever you're away, make sure that you're, whenever a query arises in a different campus, make sure you're there personally to deal with it, and yeah, just delegate jobs.
But when you say make sure you're there to deal with it personally on each campus, you can't be in two places at once. So if an issue comes up on Pats, an issue comes up on DCU,
yeah, that's why I said delegate jobs. Whichever you prioritize, basically, whichever you feel like is more important for you personally to be there. I think you should be there.
It's a students' union, so you're coming in as a team. I think teamwork is a really important thing in the whole thing.
Yeah, but also every team needs to have a leader, and you will be the leader. So Sean, how would you do it?
Yeah, I suppose I'd look in the union constitution. The president is in charge of staffing the union alongside the OSL manager, so I would take that approach. There will be OSL staff down there as well. I agree with what the lads are saying. You need to give them directives. This is what your job is day to day. This is what you have to do. But on top of that, we're at a situation where we are between either we're going to be 2 campuses or a maximum of 4 campuses. But assuming we're 2 based on Pats and Glasnevin, you're going to have a situation where what I'll be applying a 30% standard to every sabbatical candidate. They will have to spend 30% on each campus every week. So I'll do that by breaking down days. So I don't like seeing it as days. I like seeing it as a morning and afternoon. So that's 10 shifts. So each sabbatical will have 3 shifts minimum on all campuses.
Okay. You mentioned that we may be operating at 2 or maybe we're operating at 4. A big issue that has come up in the last 2 weeks is the School of Fionter is set to be moving down to All Hallows campus. This move is set to take place over the summer with lecturers moving down there, but students have shown they're against such a move. If elected on Wednesday, what will you do to support the students? Sean?
I suppose, what I've already done is I've ensured that the faculty rep and Ufkin and Gaelga has met these students. I've helped them draft, so the public letter went out, which is quite helpful. What I'll do is make sure that the university recognises that the Students' Union is behind these students, not just because they're students, but because they're right. We have a bilingual policy. The university has taken a very bizarre stance whereby they are pushing a reflection of moving lecturers down and classes down, whereby that will seriously affect our bilingual policy. The university has bilingual policy as well, so I think we need to take a principled decision. The university is looking to move certain schools down. They tried to move a school in science down. They said no. Now they're trying to move Irish, the Fionter down. They're saying no. This isn't good enough, and that's how I'll approach it. They need to recognise that the Irish language has a special status within our union constitution, within their aims and objectives within Irish law and the Irish constitution, and that's I think you need to make a principled argument towards the university.
Okay, but you were saying it is a bilingual campus, but it's not like they're removing the course. They're just removing it down to another campus.
Yeah, but that's
it's multi-campus now.
Yeah, it is multi-campus. But we have to operate bilingual policy across all campuses, and you cannot do that if you move all of the Gaelgors onto one campus. You just can't. I'm sorry, but Common Gaelic has spent 2 years building up the Irish language on this campus. they've done it quite successfully and quite well to the extent where we actually got the introduction of an Irish language officer on our students' union. And to see that thrown away by moving them all down to one campus, there's one simple word for it. It is segregation. It is nothing else. It will have a detrimental effect on promoting a bilingual policy on campus, and the university really need to strongly reflect on that fact and recognise that our union constitution, our students support the Irish language.
Segregation's a strong word.
It's the truth.
That's what I use as well.
Yeah.
Cormac, what's your
I would use the word segregation as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to learn anything if they're all pulled together. How are they going to spread the culture of Ireland? Because we are in Ireland, so.
Yeah, but what will you do on Wednesday if elected to stop this move from happening?
I'll do everything in my power. Again, I'll meet up with the team and we'll discuss our options and see what happens. So.
Okay, are you?
Yeah, I'd meet up with the Irish officer first of all. Discuss the plan. I don't know how much change I can do to this, but like I do agree it is segregation, and it's not also negative for them. It's also negative for people in this campus. You're kind of like separating the two. So I'd work with the Irish officer and see what plan we can come together.
Finally, Dylan.
Yeah, look, I think it's personally I don't think it's a good move. I think it should be fought against. The wheels seem to be in motion. They seem to be in motion. They're not fully. There is room there to maneuver. I think it's not far gone that it's set in stone. I think over the next few weeks, with the student power behind it, and there's a lot of student power behind it, I think that could be changed. I think it could be turned around. If it's not, we have to look at the flip side of the coin. Yes, it's not good for a bilingual campus. It's not, because you need the Irish speakers on each campus. But if they are all on one campus, well then we have to look at, okay, well then we have a fully speaking Irish campus that has all these Irish speakers, which on another side of it, and this is looking at it from a positive perspective, isn't a wholly bad thing either. But personally I think it needs to be fought, and I'd be optimistic. I'd be optimistic at this time.
Perfect. So there's only 2 women running for sabbatical positions, so there is a chance that no woman will be a full-time officer next year. Do you think this will have a negative effect on the SU if it's the case? And how do you plan to deal with women who may be nervous approaching a male next year? So,
yeah, Kim raised a similar question about this. I think it does have a negative view. I think like having a male and female perspective, male and female in the SU does give you a different perspective in looking at things. How I would encourage it, I would reflect into the good work Kim did. Okay. I would try to promote female candidates for next year, and using her as an example so they don't feel any.
But when first years come in who may be nervous seeing a whole panel of males, how are you going to encourage them that it's okay to come up and talk to you? So
I'd just be friendly. I think I'd just be myself, and like I don't know if people look at it this way. They like separating between male and female. If they are nervous, I'll do my best, or maybe work with any other sabbatical positions, and if there's a female running, and just approach them in a friendly manner, I suppose.
Dylan?
I think it's at this time it's not said, like we don't know. There could be females. There obviously could be females, but that's about us as sabbaticals, us as the students' union. We have to portray that we are people can approach us. We are welcoming. We are the people around campus that people can feel they can talk to, be welcome to, and that's how that has to be worked on. That's what has to be done there. And looking at the St. Pat's SU, the current Pat's SU, it's 2 guys. Obviously, it's a much smaller. It is a much smaller number, but I've only heard very good things from the 2 lads down there, and it's an all male SU, but I've heard extremely good things on them.
And Sean?
Yeah, no, I suppose like it's a particular problem this year when you have a situation where there are more women running in one faculty rep race than in the entire sabbatical races combined. I was actually chatting with a sabbatical over in Trinity. They had a great year for getting females elected to sabbatical positions last year. And I was joking, saying, there's so many women up this year. And, I think one of the things we need to recognise is that there, the impact Kim has had and Eve before will be that in a year's time or 2 years' time, we will see more women. It's a residual effect. To answer your question directly, I would be certain that there would be a number of female candidates like at a faculty rep level. It's about promoting them. If they need to come up and remember they're strong candidates and they're strong individuals. Like I have no problem getting them on board to help do the likes of the addresses at the start of the year, the addresses in the Helix. That would be an important element. And there's another thing, and I'll say it here. For anyone who hasn't voted, strongly considering preferencing some of the female candidates in the sabbatical races. It's an absolute issue. Like we introduced a policy this year where the union will give out free tampons to women that if they can't afford them, they get caught short, they can have it. But so many women turned around to me and says, I like that, but I would not go into a man's office to get them. So it's an issue. So like I'd say to the audience, reflect on it. Look into the female candidates. For candidates of standing and quality, strongly look into either voting for them or preferencing strongly to them.
Perfect. Dylan, part of your manifesto is to hold 2 festivals next year, and one of them is Oktoberfest. Yeah. Societies aren't allowed to advertise alcohol for events. Do you think it's okay if the SU are allowed to, or do you think the SU should be allowed to? And doesn't it send a wrong message about students if the Students' Union are advertising alcohol?
Yeah. The essence of Oktoberfest is German culture, and a part of that festival, obviously German beers are a thing that is very much to do with it, but it's also German food. And I think the Oktoberfest, I've had an abundance of really good feedback on it. That's what people want. And in terms of like cost and putting the event on, I don't think there's that much to it. And I think that's what I really genuinely believe, that's what the university is crying out for. Something new and innovative. And I think I'm the man to bring that.
Right. And another point in your manifesto is about the Wi-Fi walkway.
Yeah.
So you said you've approached people in DCU. Roughly, what's the cost for that? Would you know?
The cost isn't coming out of Students' Union money.
Right. But that brings my next point. According to the Students' Union, that plan is already well underway. Are you just taking credit for work that's already been done?
In the last week, so the first day of campaigning, I was told that we were actually doing that now. But through the campaigning and through hustings, I've seen a lot of people I'm running against have spoke out against the Wi-Fi walkway and that it's unnecessary. I think it is. And if elected president, that's what I want to drive home, and I want to have that in place for September.
But like it is happening.
Well, it is happening now. It's not coming from the Students' Union money. But at the very beginning, when I was writing my manifesto, it was talks of it. There was talks of it. And now I want to just drive it home, make sure that's happening. Because people here sitting at the table have said that it's not, they'd rather focus on Wi-Fi on campus. And I'm personally, Wi-Fi on campus, yeah, there's parts of it that's bad. But in your own home, there's parts of it, like you go to the corner of the house, Wi-Fi's bad. Same as any shopping centre or pub. That's technology, and that's how it is in the 21st century. So I fully believe that the Wi-Fi walkway is a link for the 2 campuses that should be had. Sorry.
As Dylan pointed out, most of you have spoken out against it, and some of you have even said, "Well, I've 3G, I've 4G. What happens if you've no credit, and you need to get home, you need to get a bus? Do you?"
I said I have 3G, and I understand if well, I first of all, like I know it's a plan in motion, but I feel like what I said is not that I have 3G. It doesn't matter where you have 3G or not. I said like you could focus on improving other things with that budget rather than the Wi-Fi.
But like it's not coming out of the Students' Union budget.
Like for me, when the university spends money in one department, it's the potential of taking away from another. There's a broader reality here. There's a 9-month academic calendar which students are on. Like we don't have the nicest weather. I walked up there and I got soaked. And like that's something funny to say. But I don't see like if we're spending anywhere between 50 and 100k in this, that's far too much because you're not going to get that level of use out of it. Like that's for me, this is something, and like honestly, Dylan, this is nothing against you. Like I would take this perspective on the university. This isn't something for students. This is something nice they can put in the prospectus and sell to students. Because honestly, Wi-Fi walkway sounds brilliant. I don't know what it means, but it sounds brilliant, and it's something nice that can go on a perspective. And I really mean this. Like had I found out this 4 weeks ago, I would have had that same perspective. For me, like it's not just about Wi-Fi on campus. Like Wi-Fi sometimes doesn't extend to campus res. That's an issue, and it's not just that it's bad in certain areas. Like it's been consistently bad year on year, and like I have an issue where the university decides to invest money outside of the campus because it'll look nice to sell in a prospectus, rather than investing for the services that students pay through their contribution charge on campus.
It's funny, I've spoke to numerous PAT students today, and
they don't have Wi-Fi in their accommodation.
I went through a lot of my manifesto, and it's something they're loving. They really love the idea, and that's enough for me. Like that's a big contingent of students that want to see it. That's enough for me to support it. Guys, you might disagree, but
Yeah.
I'm just listening to what
Yeah, I think loving an idea is one thing, but then like thinking of how that idea affects like Sean is saying, the overall picture. That's another. Like I also feel like you could spend on like campus res or other things, like if you're spending that much money on
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I do think it's a great idea, but just my main concern would be its cost, and at the end of the day, I mean, we all get stuck. If you're stuck, you should be 20 minutes between each campus, so it's not the end of the world. In life you struggle and emerge, so
Sean,
it's a small struggle.
Sean, a big thing you've campaigned about is getting a free microwave on campus for students who commute or want to bring in their lunch. But a counter argument that's always brought up is health and safety. Yeah. So just what I want to know is who will clean it on a day-to-day basis?
Like for me, like I would see those as silly arguments. They have one in NUIG, they have them in IT Tralee. Traditionally speaking, like where a mess is made, you clean up after yourself. But like for example, if it's in the Students' Union area, then like there will be sabbaticals there from 7-8 o'clock. You clean it. Like it takes 5 minutes. It is not an arduous task. Like I was talking to the president of IT Tralee Students' Union. They introduced them to their canteen were very against it. Says, oh sure, it's good, we're going to lose business. They actually had an uptake in business, and to be honest, students who use it couldn't afford the food in the canteen anyways. But they got to a stage where after 6 months the cleaners just give it a wipe after it's being used. But the one within the Students' Union, the sabbaticals are generally there speaking till 9 o'clock. There is nothing to say that any sabbatical, the three will be based on DCU campus, or if we put one in Pat's of the two, take 5 minutes to clean it. It is not an arduous task. It's 5 minutes.
Kim Sweeney's actually bringing one in tomorrow, you saw, and she has a list of the sabbaticals who have to stand by it, because in case anyone messes with it, in case anyone puts any oranges set to explode in it, which could happen if it is left unattended. But you were also talking about putting one in the restaurant.
Yeah. So with regards to, like, the engineers have one in their common room. They don't have a guard on their microwave. Like, we're adults, so we know how to use these things. Now I can understand, like, it's not really about health and safety. It's about insurance. It's about if something goes wrong, this will cost us this. Like, you know, you have to kind of trust students, but you also have to, there's nothing to say that we can't have written warnings. This is how you use it. There's someone in the office if you need help. With regards to the restaurant, yes, it's like my friend said in IT Tralee, you know, the restaurant were massively against it. And, you know, the one perspective is, oh, sure, we're going to lose business. No, you're not, because people who need to heat up food can't afford your food anyways. And the second point was, the restaurant found that after a couple of months, there was uptake in people buying their food and reheating it.
But the restaurant actually have a policy that they won't take claim for a microwave, because any food that's heated, that they haven't cooked, if someone gets food poisoning, they're liable and they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
So they said they won't take claim of a microwave.
Yeah, there's nothing to say that it can't be hosted in the restaurant and we can't take responsibility for it. I think more often than not, like, the restaurant is a company of DCU. It's called TriSpace. Has €3 million turnover. Like, this has become an issue year on year. I go into, like, I went into a class there a week and a half ago, and like, it was a class of mature students, and like, they gave me 3 rounds of applause because I said the word microwave. Like, there's a high demand for this, and to be honest, it's ridiculous. There is a microwave in the engineering building, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a microwave in every staff secretary room in the college.
At the end of the day, it's just a microwave. Like, we're not talking about a volatile bomb or something. Like, it's just a microwave. So
aluminium,
there's more pressing issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, don't put tinfoil in it.
There's a broader
don't put tinfoil in it. There'd still be a mess there with tinfoil in it.
There's a broader reality here, is that, like, we have it in the engineering building. We have never had a fire in the engineering building in the common room. Like, you have to, like, this. This is the stuff that annoys me, is that when the university looks on students as children and not adults who pay to go here.
Right. So a big talking point at last week's hostings were events, because next year there will be no venue, or the SPAR is going to take its place. You couldn't think of an answer to the question of why events haven't worked in DCU. What do you think now?
Sorry, I completely blanked out about that. No, I think why events don't work at DCU, because I feel like certain events are made for just specifically for a certain group of people. They don't interest the wide variety of students, and I think that's why they don't work. Certain events like Netflix and chill, that was specific for like certain event people. I think you should make events that are that would interest the whole variety of students. Like.
And Cormac, you said events aren't interesting enough, but what will you do different?
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm putting it to the students. So how can the event not be interesting enough if the students themselves have put forward an event, and then the rest of the students have said, okay, I picked that one, and the majority pick one. To me, that's foolproof, and it's like, okay, well, if everyone wants to do that one crazy event, then that one crazy event's what we'll do, and it'll be the one that sells, rather than the SU putting forward something that's kind of been done or a bit boring or just plain or whatever. People aren't going to want to get behind that as much as they would something that's a little bit different.
And Sean, you are against, or you don't believe that the venue can be taken off the students to replace the spare. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, effectively, I'm in disagreement because I think there's been a few processes that haven't been followed. Like, for me, it's not about a shop, it's about losing a venue. Like, for a lot of people, the student centre is a place where they can go, that they know, that they're comfortable in. But more so than that, we have a situation whereby the only other venue on campus, the only other currently available venue that has entertainment facilities, a university-owned company, has increased rents to use its rooms in the same time that we have lost a venue. Like, that's not right. That's going to have a massive impact on the overall budget. And like, they're the things we need to ask, why is this happening? Like, why did those two things happen in the same year? Like, that's not right.
I understand that, but Kim Sweeney said it is 100% happening that the spare is going into the venue, and as you said, a venue on campus has raised its prices. But what will you do if we have no venue? And
well, I think there's three things that you have to do. Like, there is, like, if we come to a situation, and to be honest, for me personally, I don't think we're at that point. We're definitely not at that point until, you know, another 10-15 days. But what we do need to look at, we need to make sure all processes have been followed. Like, this is the thing, more often than not, the university will say this is a done deal. Like, it's a done deal when we say we're not going to fight it until a certain stance, and that's just following of every process we have. After that point, if you're in a situation whereby the retail unit is being moved into the venue, then you need to look at where is the funding going to come for the marquee. Like, for me, it's not just about you need to invest in a proper marquee. You need to turn around to the university and say you're going to have to lower rents in the Helix, because that isn't right. And I think that's what you have to do. Like, you need to look at, and you need to look at outside events. And like, for me, that's very upsetting, because we have a problem engaging non-traditional engagers, particularly the international community, postgrads and matures. And it's quite a valuable asset to have a venue there. And when we take that away, we take our autonomy away in a building. And that's a really bad thing for engagement. Like, it annoys me because people don't realise the wider impact on a budget and on a principled level with regard to, you know, effectively being screwed over by the university in a monetary sense, and on the third level, the opportunity cost of losing the potential to engage non-traditional engagers.
Dylan, what do you think?
I think, look, it seems this is happening, the venue is going, and I really, really think we need to take an optimistic stance on this. This is refreshing, this is good. Trust me, it is. I'm looking into it, I've been looking into it for months now. Right, there is facilities available on campus, the canteen, the marquee. Now, the marquee, maybe once throughout the year, I think it could be a good option, not a solely reliable thing to use. Obviously, the Helix is there, but off campus. Right, so off the Glasnevin campus, Drumcondra has so many venues, so many great venues, and the likes of Trinity are doing events always off campus, UCD, DIT, and PATS this year, and there's some of the most engaging events. Like, these students love them, and they're not afraid to go. It doesn't affect attendance whatsoever, purely because it's refreshing. It's always fresh. Our balls here in DCU, regardless of the title, whether it's Halloween, winter, Netflix and chill, it's pretty much the same thing. You know, print off your ticket. You're going into the hub. You'll have a DJ in the venue. You'll have the new bar rocking demo. Maybe the old bar might be open on the summer ball. Maybe. But that's it. That's it. Events need to change in DCU. I think it's really good. It's really refreshing. Me personally, it's a goldmine of opportunity, a real goldmine of opportunity.
And finally, lads, last week at CRC hustings, someone asked, what is being done for the new hub, for the environment? What are they doing to help that? No one really knew what was being done then. Have any of you looked into it since then?
I've looked into it, and the simple question from me on a personal level was, I'm not sitting on any of these boards, the new hub boards, any of these committees, and I don't think anyone who was even knew the information. and it was really hard to get anything of substance for me personally. Maybe you guys, you had more joy.
I think the question he was asking was more.
He asked, was there plexiglass collecting
he was
rainfall?
asking. I think he had a vested interest in that particular topic, and it was a bit specific for us. But I was thinking about that question all week, and I was thinking, it is kind of cool when there's a building or something that kind of interacts with the environment, and any way that we can make the campus greener, I'll definitely get behind that in any way. So
the question from Mono, because I asked Kevin afterwards, the person who stood up and made the question. What he was trying to say was he wasn't worried about the sustainability of building the building. What he was asking is, can you incorporate certain designs and architecture to show off sustainability? So the likes of having a green roof or something like that. So I did have the chat with him afterwards. I'm not going to lie, we're running for election. I think there's a level where you have to recognise that we're still competing. You can't be presumptive. But if elected, I'll absolutely be linking in with Kevin, linking in with the sustainability office, and seeing Kim with regards to seeing what we can do, because it's a brilliant idea. To make a building a little bit more cool.
The thing about the rain, the rainfall, to use that as to flush the toilets. I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Maybe building.
But is there anything being done that any of you are aware of?
I'm not aware of anything that's been done.
Any plans to share? No.
The quote I had from the Sebast was that the engineers haven't even met to discuss that. So. I'd be doing that to find information.
The new building's going to reach certain standards, so it's in itself it's going to be a clean building. But yeah, I would definitely be on board with the whole interact with the environment thing and reuse, recycle, reduce, all that kind of stuff. So
perfect. Thank you, lads. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's it tonight from DCUTV's live debates. Voting will close on Wednesday at 5 p.m. So if you haven't voted, vote then. And thank you for staying tuned, and best of luck to all the candidates.
Thanks.
No problem.
Cheers. Thanks.